The Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle show contains explicit language and is intended for mature audiences only. But just because you're mature doesn't mean you can't be a little naughty.
Hulk Hogan's creepy here, devil.
You have just entered another dimension. Damn! A place where two men explain the unexplainable and change the minds of fans everywhere by the words they speak.
TNA! Damn it!
A place where great wrestling and angles are praised.
The hypocrisy of being a TNA fan must be very
A
difficult.
place where a large green lizard crushes the super nerds into fine dust.
Oh!
I am Anthony the Promise Thomas, and you're listening to the Tony and Kevin Castle Show.
Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I had to butcher Led Zeppelin's theme a little bit. That's the only way we could get away with playing a few seconds of it on YouTube. Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Sunday night, June 2nd, 2024. We are back once again. You know, here's an interesting tidbit that was not done on purpose. The last time we did one of these actually happened to be 2 days before my birthday. And we are now doing this 1 day before my co-host's birthday. Welcome to this special edition of the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle Show. I am Don Tony, so he is the birthday boy.
Kev Castle, what's up, DT? What's up, everybody in the chat? Thank you for the birthday greeting so far.
Yeah, and if you go to look at your video clip, you'll see, we just put a crown on top of your head. So happy birthday, happy birthday. So tomorrow's the day, right?
Yeah, tomorrow, June 3rd.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. So, so tomorrow we'll be back and our live Discord audience will be wishing you happy birthday too. So you get two for one.
There you go. As the oldest, I think I'm the oldest podcaster, wrestling podcaster in general. No, Vince Russo would be the oldest.
Yeah, Vince Russo. Is it Meltzer? How old is Meltzer?
Yeah, Meltzer. I'm the oldest.
Dutch Mantel, Jim Cornette.
Oh, yeah, no, those guys, they're way older than me. But I'm talking about from our ilk, our group, our level, the Solar Monsters, the JDs, the Conrads.
Oh, yeah, we are the oldest.
The Greg Morgans and, the guys like that.
Big shout out to all of them, by the way. Yeah. People think that we have angst with other podcasts. We don't have angst with anybody. We just, sometimes we complain with the methods of the madness that some people do. But at the end of the day, we always say the same thing. Hey, if you could bank coin off of it, good for you, man. Seriously. Especially this day and age, every motherfucker has a podcast. Kevin and I have been doing this together for the better part of 20 years. And when we first started, there was 5. I think it was Meltzer was doing one, In Your Head, and 3 others. And that was it. Chris Cash was doing one. Now there's tens of thousands of wrestling shows. It's and you know what? That's a credit to technology, because technology has gotten so much easier and so much better that you literally couple of clicks and you're online doing a show.
No, it's come a long way since 2003.
Yeah, I tell you, I've been watching a lot of shows about computers in the 80s and the 90s, just to reminisce about, what the computers were like back then. And I think back to even the early 2000s, and I ask myself, how the hell did we pull this off online with 56K?
Yeah, I know. It's pretty crazy. I mean, it's gone by so fast, though.
Yeah, it is. It is. So, we are back for a special episode tonight. We want to thank everybody who joins us, whether you're alive or on the archive. We're going to be answering questions, talking a little bit of AEW, WWE, and believe it or not, some WCW. A couple of super chats came in already about WCW, which I'm kind of amazed that 23 years later, this has suddenly become a hot topic of conversation. Kev, I kind of compare this to movies that have to just rely. You remember, what was it, 10 years ago that it seemed like every movie was a remake of an older one?
Yeah, it still seems that way.
It seems like wrestling is falling. They're kind of they've run the gamut about criticizing Tony Khan, and it seems like, all right, what topic can we bring up? I mean, this is why I don't like Vice. When you're doing Dark Side of the Ring Harley Race, you know what I mean? It's like, come on, man. That's not Dark Side of the Ring. Chris Benoit is Dark Side of the Ring. Invader number 2 is Dark Side of the Ring. Hardbody Harrison is Dark Side of the Ring. Not Chris Candido. I don't know, man.
No, I mean, even the last one that they closed the season with, Vince McMahon, Black Saturday. I mean, quite honestly, the only people who really cared about that switching was people in Georgia.
Yeah.
It wasn't it wasn't that big a deal. I mean, wrestling fans over exaggerate everything. So,
yeah.
And it's the podcasters get the fans all worked up over nothing. But yeah, Dark Side of the Ring's got to come up with some better episodes, because I didn't find many of those to be Dark Side of the Ring at all.
It's funny. The Black Saturday, if we compared it to the social world, it's like you're dating a chick or you're married to someone and you catch her cheating on someone else, and you decide that there should be a Dark Side of the Ring episode because you got cheated on. Like Vince McMahon was smart business. I mean, he took over a time slot that a lot of people were used to pro wrestling. I mean, how is that Black Saturday? That's kind of actually smart.
Yeah, I mean, some of this stuff gets mad corny after a while. It doesn't even, when you run out of things, you start regurgitating stuff, or you just start seeing things that you never saw before and go, well, wait a minute, that looks like something negative. Dark, negative, same thing. Let's go with that story. I mean, you could do that. I mean, I can name a plethora of wrestlers that, since they did Chris Colt, who nobody here in the chat, including myself, guys, don't feel bad, I never heard of the guy either. And if that's the case, do one on Bad Leroy Brown, do one on Ray Candy, do one on Larry Cameron, who had a heart attack in the ring at 40 years old. Do what, there's a ton. Actually, if they want, give me a call, guys from Dark Side of the Ring. I'll give you some ideas.
Yeah, do one on Road Warrior Hawk.
There's a ton. I mean, there's a ton, because they did Chris Colt, who nobody heard of before. So if you want to go that route, I could give you 50 wrestlers who made a little bit of a noise in the business that they could do a whole thing. I mean, Mike Awesome. How come there's no episode on Mike Awesome?
Well, actually, there is a good reason for that. There is a good reason. They actually reached out to, I believe, his wife, and she said, "No, I really don't want an episode done on my husband." And they said, "Okay."
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, that's a legit thing that I heard.
Eddie Gilbert. That's
another one.
Immediate go-to.
Hey, I'll use my fat stomach as a prop right now. Kamala. They could have done one with Kamala. They didn't do one either.
There's a ton of them. There's so many guys. Skip Young, Sweet Brown Sugar, Coco Samoa. There's just a bunch of, some of these names might sound familiar. I'm sure I know Guardian of Chaos is in the chat. He probably knows these names.
Yeah.
There's a ton, because once I saw them do Chris Colt, and they did that dude who was in the biker gang last year.
Oh yeah,
what's
his
name?
Jim
Cornette's guy.
The guy from Canada, isn't it?
Yeah. Who's that guy? What the fuck? Johnny Canine.
Johnny Canine. Yes.
Yeah, Johnny Canine. So if they're going to do that, then there's about 50 guys I can name who are more known than Johnny Canine who they could do one on.
Yeah.
So I mean, I like it too. And somebody said in the chat, I think it was Tribal Queen, that they watch them for the get information or the history on them, which is good. I mean, I if anything, we push the fact that people should be more historians and learn more about wrestling and its history. Because I don't think enough people do know that. Like the other day, DT, I posted on, and Paul Ellering actually retweeted me, when Cross was doing that promo, and I was like, wow, Jake Robert vibes from 1983 when he was in the Legion of Doom. And someone goes, Jake Roberts wasn't in the Legion of Doom. I got the information. I said, Jake Roberts was the first member of the Legion of Doom, so learn your fucking wrestling. And Paul Ellering said I was right on point. Yeah. He was the first member of the Legion of Doom, Jake Roberts.
That's one thing that... Yeah, that's one thing that really annoys me about 2024, this day and age. Like, people are quick to try to shoot down other people without trying to actually get the answers themselves. I mean, it just happens over and over again. And that's why I kind of gave up in a lot of ways of putting things online, because I just don't want to deal with the people that are just going to shoot it down, just instant reactions. And then they end up, just looking stupid after a while,
Yeah, no, the original Legion of Doom, so everybody knows, was not the Road Warriors. It was Jake Roberts, King Kong Bundy, and the spoiler, Don Jardine. Those are the three original members that Paul Ellering managed. A few months later, Animal and Hawk came into the picture, but the original was Roberts. He was the talking head. Bundy was like the big heater, and the spoiler was the great technical wrestler. That was the stable that they had.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, and there's some clips you can actually find probably on YouTube
Oh
of the
yeah.
original LOD. Yeah.
Sure. Before we get into some questions, and we're gonna open up with some super shout outs.
Mhm.
Question came in the chat room. I think this is a great one to start off with. SITV has been tuning into us since he was in grammar school, and now he's 30 years old.
Wow, nice.
What, and I think we're gonna have the same answer. What would be considered our favorite DTKC episode of all time? And we can include the Minority Report as well.
Wow. Favorite episode. I mean, there's some, they're not my favorites. I mean, obviously the epic ones that we talked about when wrestlers had passed away. I remember the one we did on Ultimate Warrior,
Yeah.
when he passed away. It's not my favorite, but it's definitely an epic episode. Favorite, trying to think. I had a bunch of, I'm trying to think of any particular theme or something happened. Uh, what would be yours, Anthony? I got to
Well,
really think about that.
non-wrestling was the one where we did a whole episode talking about candy and bad sitcoms, and
Oh, yeah,
it came out
that's
the
right,
wrong
yeah,
way.
yeah.
I was talking about Webster, and I said, there's just something that doesn't seem right about, two parents and this black little midget being their kid. And the way it came out, it sounded so racist, but it wasn't that. It was, this was around different strokes, and they were following similar templates. There were more than one like that, but it just came off so wrong. But to me, my favorite episode of all time, and it's a shame that I have to choose this one, but how it went down was the Benoit episode, because we started that show paying tribute to him. And as the show went on in real time, we found out that he murdered his family. And by the end of the show, like 4.5 hours later, we were spitting on his grave and he wasn't even buried yet. That was just surreal as it went down. I mean, over the years, it's kind of interesting that a lot of things seem to happen leading into Monday nights. Because many times when we did episodes, like there would be a major thing going down on a Monday night. Hell, when WCW went out of business, and I was doing the hotlines at that time, not podcasting, but even when WCW closed its doors, that was a Monday night as well. A lot of shit happened, that led into a Monday night. For Eddie Guerrero's passing, Brian Pillman's passing. There's quite a few of them.
We covered so many. I mean, again, when we did the Warrior one, I mean,
that was good.
Remember with the Warrior, we were covering, in a good. I think we did two episodes, didn't we, DT? Well, we then came on the air after we found out Warrior died, and we did another episode because we were covering his Hall of Fame speech, and we were covering that weekend of WrestleMania.
Yeah, the
and
Raw.
I think he died on a Tuesday, and I specifically remember us going on the air the next night.
We did a special episode.
Night.
Yeah,
we did a special episode, and I think you spliced it in.
Yeah.
If I recall. So we went from like real happy because we were big proponents of the Warrior. He was getting his flowers, as me and you said, and people were doing an about face now. He's making amends with everybody. And a day later, I remember Anthony's like, "Did you see the news?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Can you fucking?" I remember you telling me, "Can you fucking?" But how eerie is that? I'm like,
it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm still processing. I was processing it. I mean, we went on the air. I couldn't even believe it. It was almost like surreal. You can even hear it, like the shock and surprise.
Yeah.
We went in 48 hours from like, Warrior got his due. He's back in. He's going to be an ambassador now. And 48 hours later, Warrior died. I mean, it was that. Yeah, that's not my favorite, but that's an epic episode that I just remember. That's what really tests, I think, your skills in talking and your talking game and your, getting people to listen to you and expressing yourself, catching you by surprise, right, DT? Getting news that you're not prepared for. Because there's a lot of podcasters who overly prepare. And me and DT always kind of pride ourselves. We don't prepare at all, but talking about that, I remember when we wound up, I thought it was a really, really good episode. And like I said, not a favorite, but one of the episodes I was kind of proud because I thought we did a good tribute to him. We always kind of had our way of how we viewed things. We admitted, his flaws and everything. But when people tried to debase him as a flash in the pan and he was nobody, and me and DT shot that down. It's like, we lived that era. We went to the matches during that time. That's total bullshit.
Yeah.
So the Chris Benoit too. I remember just going on the end. I remember DT. Do you remember? I was still doing stuff with Joey, and me and Joey. You weren't part of the interview, but you might have even helped facilitate it. Me and Joey interviewed Doug Basham. Remember that?
Yeah,
We
I do remember that.
We interviewed Doug Basham, and Doug still. This was like fresh. This just happened, and things were just coming off, and we had to really be careful how we spoke with him. But Doug turned out to be really cool, and he was really nice, and he spoke on it as much as he could. And I was surprised, DT, that we were getting WWE guys who were on WWE TV doing interviews with us during that time.
Yeah, I think
that
I
couldn't
have
happen
audio
now
still.
without permission. I'm sure you do. You still have the Doug Basham interview.
Yeah, I still
He was
have
with
it.
the JBL. He was with the cabinet at that point. JBL.
Yeah, it was him, Amy Weber, Danny Basham,
and Orlando Jordan.
Yes, that's right. That was the cabinet. It's
so
pretty
that's
surreal.
another memorable.
Yeah,
it is surreal. Yeah, I mean, so DT, what was the name of the adult film actress that we had on our show?
Oh, Trina Michaels.
Trina Michaels. Wow, I remember that one too. Yeah.
She was trying to get into TNA so bad. She's like, you can't spell Trina without TNA. I still remember that, but it was funny. She was going to come on, and Misha Montana, the girlfriend of Matt Riddle, she tunes in every week. Big shout out to her. And I'll even say, I've already told her this privately. When I first, was going to interview her last year, I looked her up, similar like when we were going to have Trina Michaels on, and Trina came on as a surprise because we didn't interview people. Yeah. And I do a little history, and I'm like looking at my screen, and it's like, watching all these like XXX movies, and I'm like, wow. It's like, but it was awesome. They were both big time wrestling fans. Trina absolutely loved wrestling. Misha did stuff for XPW and loved wrestling also. And it's pretty cool to be able to talk, especially to females that are into wrestling. That was something, Kevin and I growing up, it was predominantly a male dominated sport. And even when you had women that were fans, it was because they thought Ravishing Rick Rude was hot. They thought the Ultimate Warrior had a nice ass. It wasn't like, oh, you could talk storylines and like, what do you think about Hogan and Macho Man? They were just like, oh, God, he's hot. It's like, come on. I don't need to have conversations like that.
It's true. Yeah.
So let's open up a couple of super shout outs that came in before we went live. Two of them in particular have to do with WCW, and I want to thank everybody who sent them in. Obviously, it goes... I know Conrad uses this phrase, and it's not that he bid off of us, but, thank you for everyone who supports the cause and keeps what we do alive in 2024. Hey, Morgan, weak WCW documentary, no WWE spin, Turner executives included, cannot wait, watch the YouTube preview 5 times already. In my honest opinion, it's not overdone. The Monday Night Wars DVD was 20 years ago. That's his comment that he shares. And I also want to post this one because this has a question, and we'll incorporate the two together. Yeet Hater, thank you for sending in the 10-spot. Yeet Hater, lately everyone is covering why WCW went out of business. I know you two covered it as it happened in 2001. Please explain why WCW died, because all I hear are lame, untrue conspiracy theories just to make money.
He wants our opinion of why we think WCW
we think WCW went out of business, because, now these days it's, a lot of conspiracy theories, a lot of different things. I mean, I have a clear-cut answer because we covered it in real time as it went down. What do you think?
I mean, you'll probably give a more in-depth answer, but mine is kind of pretty, to the point of that. I just think it ran its course. And I think that after the NWO became not a thing anymore and it fell apart and people started to either leave or quit or stay home or you just paid to stay home. And they were relying on guys like, they went from Hulk Hogan, Goldberg, Kevin Nash, the whole, Scott Hall, the prime NWO by 2000 hit. And no offense to Booker T and Scott Steiner, but I feel that kind of once they went that way, the seats started to get empty. The attendance started to go down. Those guys aren't Hogan and Goldberg and Sting and guys like that. They started relying on other guys who really, by that time, DT, and if you remember, the artist formerly known as was on TV all the time, Lash LaRue, all these other guys they were featuring now, what was that, Misfits in Action and stuff. And you just kind of looked at it and go, yeah, it reminds me of what's going on with AEW. I mean, there's still good competitors there, but big names are bye-bye, like when they lost CM Punk and Cody Rhodes. And I think it just runs its course. I was in a chat the other day. They're doing a retrospective on the club I used to work at, and everyone's giving their opinions, and someone's like, I think the guy who ran the club is in the chat, and I was like, yeah, it's me. And they're like, dude, you agree with all this? I go, you know why Castle Heights closed down? We ran our course. Our lease was up, and they didn't want a club there anymore. We had a 10-year run, and we weren't hot. We were now a detriment instead of an asset to the neighborhood, and people were done with us, and that was it. And the guy who was hosting the show goes, that's probably really it. I mean, everyone's going back and forth. The scene, the bands were enjoying. No, we ran out the clock, and that was it. Things come and go. There's a time and place for everything. Just like DT, when they say everything's cyclical, like even the Mets right now, they're sucking. They can't you can't give away Mets tickets right now, DT. And, and everyone thought, no, but this was supposed to be the turnaround. Steve Cohen started. Yeah, but then it goes down and it comes up again. You don't really know when it's, baseball and wrestling are never going to go out of fashion per se. But when you have a particular federation like WCW, and also we all know that Time Warner at the time, AOL, was not a fan of wrestling. They didn't want wrestling on the network. When you have low ratings, wrestlers not pulling it as headliners, not selling tickets, and people who are the biggest part of the company, the shot callers, don't like this product. Where do you go from there? You go out of business. There was nowhere to go. That's Eric Bischoff tried to buy it. You know all the story. DT, how cheap did WWE get that library on the cheap? Would they pay DT
couple of million.
$5 million?
Yeah, around there.
DT, go back to 1998. If WWE would have brought them out, how much would they have paid for that company?
Yeah.
I mean, think of the difference. But I also think it ran out the clock. WCW became fashionable, a fad. WWE was around longer. Remember, WCW what came from the fallout of the NWA. So WCW itself wasn't really around that long. I was going to matches still called NWA at the Meadowlands in 1989. 1991 is when they started to change everything to WCW from the NWA. And because Bradshaw the other day called Sting the NWA champion. Well, yeah, he technically was. In 1990, it was the NWA title. A year later, Sting was fighting for the WCW title. Same thing. So WWE just had such a bigger foundation and a bigger head start than WCW. WCW was a fad. It really was. From 96 to 99, it was in fashion. Then once the new fucking millennium came in 2000 and everyone was starting to migrate over to WWE, the radicals and all that shit, they were done, dude. They were just done. It ran out the clock. Eric Bischoff can do constant, and it seems like he's repeating and regurgitating. I like Eric Bischoff, and he's regurgitating the same shit over and over again, and good for him. He can make money on a podcast where he keeps explaining the same thing time and time again. And now we're going to have this special with Rock doing it, the death of WCW. Don't we all already know what happened?
Yes.
So, I mean, I know I'm ranting, but I'll let you answer DT.
No, it's fine.
To me, I'm still going to watch that series, but I already know. I watch it because I like watching wrestling-related stuff, but I already know what they're going to say.
All right. I'll say a couple of things. Number one, you are spot on as far as that it ran its course. There's a reason why The Sopranos are no longer on the air. Seinfeld is no longer on the air. MASH is no longer on the air. I mean, I'm going back a bit, but TV series, episodic television, it's very rare that shows will go beyond even 10 years. The problem with WCW, obviously creative, when you diminish the value of a lot of your big time stars, when you make the belts seem like, they don't matter and, they just people are just getting misused. You can't suddenly, take everybody's belts back and crown new champions and then all is forgiven. There was a lot of damage done. And at the same time, WWE became the cool place to work. Now, the thing also is, and this is the number one reason why WCW went out of business. All right. It's because AOL Time Warner owned that company. And AOL Time Warner, I always, when I did the history shows, Kev did history shows as well. If you all Google the history of AOL Time Warner, when they had that financial disaster happen around the millennium, they started getting rid of anything that was not a moneymaker and that was hemorrhaging money. It's kind of like, if you're shot and you're stabbed and you're bleeding on the street, you have to stop the bleeding somewhere. And the thing is that they wanted WCW off the books so fast that they were going to, we covered it in real time, and we went from 3 weeks before rumors that WCW might be sold to 3 weeks later, they were off the air. I mean, this was not planned a month, 6 months, a year in advance that, WCW could be off Turner. And it just happened so fast. And what happened was Fusient was going to buy it, the Eric Bischoff-led company. And once they found that there was no TV deal, we didn't have Netflix. We didn't have streaming media. I don't think we even had YouTube, or it might have just been a totally different animal at the time. There was no other options. When we get into the super chat about AEW, Warner Brothers Discovery, it might sound a little bit similar, but I think AEW will have a more positive result. So the bottom line is that WCW started losing a lot of money, a lot of fan interest. It started to suck. The creative was abysmal at times. What people need to remember is that you look at the roster of WCW in 2001, they had a kick-ass roster. People would love to have the roster they had in 2001. It's kind of what I say about Tony Khan with Will Ospreay and Okada, Mercedes Moné, and everything else. You could have Lamborghinis, you could have Ferraris, you could have anything you want, but if you don't know how to drive a stick, all you have is beautiful cars sitting in your driveway, and you don't know what the fuck to do with them. So when AOL Time Warner got rid of them, if it would have been a Crockett-owned company, it probably still would have been around. If they had more time, the company that ended up starting TNA might have bought WCW. There is no controversy. The reason why this is being rehashed is because we are 23 years later, and there's a new generation of people out there. 20 years ago, we had the Monday Night Wars. People who were 5 years old at that time are now 25 years old. So now you have a whole new generation of people. And these wrestlers and everybody else involved, they want to still make money any way they possibly can. And honestly, nothing against The Rock, nothing against Brian Gorwitz. But when I heard this was coming out, I'm saying to myself, why is this coming out? There is no controversy. There is no hidden dirt. I mean, it's the AOL Time Warner dropped them like a bad habit. And the technology wasn't the same. The outlets for streaming was not there. Internet was still 56 fucking K modem, so you couldn't even go beyond real media. That's why it went out of business. Period. Yeah, and when people want to bring up Russo, a finger poke of doom, or the contracts or this and that, that's all a part of it. But AOL Time Warner did not want to keep it for even 5 minutes. They dropped it. And because they wanted to get rid of it, they were going to sell it to the cheapest person around. It just blows my mind that a millionaire at that time didn't think that it was worth a $4 or $5 million risk to take it on.
I mean, Vince really got it for a steal. No pun intended. He really did. I mean, when I found it was just a few $1 million, I mean, DT, just a marginal millionaire could have just bought that company and bought the library and be fucking raking in the bucks right now for licensing and renting out everything from the wrestler themes to action figures and stuff. I guess they just moved on it quick. DT, I think they just wanted to unload it, and they're like, "Yeah, Vince knows how to run wrestling. Just give it to him for $5 million."
Yeah.
They didn't care. I mean, but if anybody had, the foresight, I mean, in the annals of history, talk about going in like a lion and going out like a lamb, right, DT? When you think about it, WCW, this force of 83 weeks. I mean, we said they made a podcast. It's a podcast series called 83 Weeks Successful, but they went out really like I'm not gonna say they went out like a bitch, but they went out like just weak shit. Like really, in the annals of history, that last few months was just terrible. And but the good thing about it is a guy like Booker T wound up being a star, was kind of carrying the company in the last final months there, became one of the very few to become a star in both promotions on his own accord.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. Yeah. So we could segue to AEW Warner Brothers Discovery. Ronnie C sent this in earlier. Thank you, Ronnie. Do you think Warner Brothers Discovery re-signs AEW to a new TV deal? And if they don't, could AEW survive as a streaming platform only?
No, they need something behind them, like a major station, major cable station, a major network or an offshoot network. They won't survive. No, matter of fact, I still am standing by the fact. I know some people are not going to like hearing this. If I'm right, I don't. And if I'm right, I don't even want a pat on the back. I just saw it coming. I think within 1 year, Tony Khan is selling AEW. It's just my opinion.
Well, I'll say this.
I think it'll be sold in a year.
Well, I don't know if he'll sell it within a year, but I will say this. I think if AEW is eventually sold down the line, it's because Tony Khan just has a meltdown. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's not even going to be I give up, I failed. It'll be, and like I said, I get these predictions right sometimes. I'm no fucking, future teller or fortune teller, but I have a feeling, DT, he's going to say it's for health reasons, mental health reasons. Yeah. He has to let go of the company. It's not going to be anything admitting failure, DT. It's going to be health reasons.
Yeah, for the betterment of, my well-being.
For the better, right. My well-being, exactly. And this way, you got to be a son of a bitch to make fun of him about that, right?
Yeah.
Because if you admit failure, the fucking X is going to blow up, and everyone's going to put the clown emoji on him. But if he comes, hat in hand, and listen, money can't buy everything. It can't buy, and it can't buy my health. I have to do what's best for my family, blah, blah. And everyone's gonna be like, oh, okay. And it's a good public relations move, whether it's real or not.
Yeah.
But he will never say I failed. Triple H, you win. I bow down to the king. You guys are the best. No, he's going to exit in a health issue reason. It's just my prediction. About a year, maybe a little bit longer. If things don't pick up and turn around, you cannot survive. 700 and something, 800,000. As a rating, and no growth, zero growth, DT, zero growth, constant 1 step forward, 6 steps back. You can't, there's other people involved in this too. Everyone's like, oh, he's got money to burn to play with. Bullshit. You don't get to be a millionaire or a billionaire or be a successful businessman by making horrible moves and constantly funneling out and bleeding money and hemorrhaging money. Nobody does that. There's nobody that generous. It has to give at some point, Anthony.
I'll say a couple of things. Number one, I don't think he sells it within a year. I think that could happen in a few years. I think the burnout, we're all human beings, and at some point, it just Mother Nature kicks in and there's nothing you could do about it. My take on it is this, and this kind of has to do with what we were saying earlier with WCW. You look at the AEW content, there's not a lot of networks out there that's going to want to take on a lot of the, the adult-oriented parts of wrestling, the extreme violence, the blood, the vulgarity. So that is limited there. I do believe AEW is staying with Warner Brothers Discovery. I think it's now just dotting the I's and crossing the T's. I think they stay. As far as streaming platform only is concerned, look, WWE is going to be on Netflix, and the only way to watch Netflix is streaming platform. But
right,
Kev brought out a point that nobody really focuses on. There are other people involved as well. And Warner Brothers Discovery does have a financial stake in AEW. And the thing is this, whether people want to admit it or not, Warner Brothers Discovery has to answer to their investors. They have to answer to the stockholders, and they're not going to keep wrestling on their platform or keep investing in a company that is in the red every single year. You could take in $150 million, and certain news podcasters, journalists out there could paint it like, oh, they're taking in so much money. Yeah, I take in $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year, but if I'm charging $80,000, what does that mean? So Warner Brothers Discovery, 700,000, 800,000 viewers. You could say what you want about demos. At some point, they have to answer to the stockholders, why are we keeping on primetime television a show that only generates 280,000 viewers between 18 to 34? You can't, this Big Bang lead-in, I get it. Cornette and a lot of other podcasters figured out you don't count the first quarter, you don't count the overrun. Kevin and I were saying this before we actually stopped doing shows in 2020. That,
Right.
you know, it seemed like they were using this extra little bit. It's kind of like going on a scale. If you go on a manual scale, you could kind of turn the dial back a pound and say, look, everybody, I'm a pound lighter. You know, so I do believe they re-sign, but yeah, they can't survive long-term on streaming platform only. But I do believe they will stay with Warner Brothers Discovery. Who knows? Maybe Tony Khan years from now ends up selling AEW to Warner Brothers Discovery. I mean, who
Right.
knows? That's a possibility, but I don't see Tony Khan physically being able to handle this 5 years, 10 years from now. I think just, you know, health-wise, he's not a machine, and, you know, he's a small man as well, and, you know, there's only so much Babani you could smoke to cover up, you know, a little bit of the stress and everything else going on. And hair dye. You know, a lot of people don't realize Tony Khan uses hair dye, but, you know.
Just for men.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. No play for Mr. Gray. All right, this one I think is, you know, Ronnie sent this in also, and I think this is a little bit ridiculous, Ronnie, with all due respect. He said, guys, I have one more question. Swerve said in an interview that he thinks WWE and AEW could work together and that Triple H and Tony Khan are not against it. Do we think this could happen?
No, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't know why Swerve said that. I don't know if he has intel or he's assuming. No, I don't see it happening. I think there would have to be like a real meeting of the minds. I think Tony Khan is really pushed the boundaries of certain things that I think Triple H wouldn't want to work with him. I think probably Triple H, honestly, I'm just taking a guess here. I think Triple H thinks Tony Khan's a money mark. I don't think Triple H thinks Tony Khan is a wrestling historian just because he knows about ECW. I mean, if Tony Khan's a real wrestling historian, let him tell me about Wendell Coley's run in Continental Wrestling in 1988. I love these people who just go, oh, he's an ECW aficionado. Well, so is DT. Anthony is one too. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I was called a money mark once before with neck fat.
Geez, that's so ridiculous. But I think that Triple H kind of sees an immaturity in him, and I think there would have to be a lot of things worked out before Triple H trusts Tony Khan or gives him that nod. I think the reason that WWE is working with TNA, there's a maturity there. There's people who work there that Nick Khan and Paul trust and know, and there's some real wrestling aficionados there. People who've been in the trenches for years. Tony Khan's still a novice in this thing, guys. He's still a rookie when you think about it. He's a rookie owner. It could be 5 years. Still, clock in 10 years. That's why I love when someone's celebrating 5 years. I'm like, that's good, but you're still wet behind the ears, in my opinion. As Martin Lawrence would say, your breath still smells like Similac, but like a baby. But that's that's why I always laugh. Like, I've been around clocking in 5 years. I'm like, me and DT's clocking in 25 years. I'm clocking in 20 years. I mean, you're always learning something, and no one's got it down packed as an expert. I think there's certain podcasters who know a little bit more than others. There's some people who are smarter about the modern fan, and then you got older guys who can tell you a lot more about the old school heads, the way the old heads feel. And then what you have to find now is me and DT has got to be somewhere in the middle. You got to be able to relate to you young wrestling fans and relate to like the old school guys. Like we got, like I said, Guardian Chaos is up here. He's old school. We have some new fans here, 20-somethings, 30-somethings. And it's DT, it's the same thing. It's about how much you want to educate yourself, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the education is there. You can get the education if you want to.
If you want it. Yes. If you want it. I knew that I was way old for this now when you start getting anal leakage. If anybody knows what that is, yeah.
Oh, it's horrible. Jesus.
I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I ain't at that point yet, but
shouldn't be at that point.
I'll say this, and I got a special shout out in a moment. Please, JS, hang on for a second. I just want to just say this before I forget. You know, what I think Swerve gets wrong and a lot of people get wrong is they got to stop saying Triple H is all for this. Triple H is all for this. This is Ari Emanuel This is TKO Group Holdings. This is Endeavor. This is Nick Khan. Yes, Triple H obviously has input on this, but at the end of the day, I'm not trying to be a jerk when I say this. Does anybody out there think that Nick Khan and Ari Emanuel and all the bigwigs in Endeavor are going to turn around and say, yeah, we'll maybe do something with Tony Khan? They'll look at him like, look at this fucking geek little fucking money mark, billionaire. They make fun of him at the NFL draft. They make fun of him when they do financial interviews. Triple H could pitch the idea to TKO Group Holdings, but at the end of the day, it's not Triple H's decision. So that's why, when Swerve says that, sure, I think there's a lot of wrestlers in WWE that would love to be able to work their friends in AEW. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. So I think it does. The only time I think AEW and WWE would ever be on the same card is what happened with Brian Pillman, is what happened, in one or two other cases way back when. Right. It's when there's a tribute show, if there's a fundraiser, if someone passes away tragically and the companies come together. Even when Bret Hart retired, we had that, that main event of Terry Funk versus Bret Hart, but even on that card, but I think the Brian Pillman one is the greatest example, because you had WCW, you had ECW, you had WWF all on the same card. They had wrestlers working for those companies at the time, and they were all coming together to raise some money for Melanie Pillman and the Pillman family. I mean, unfortunately, the money didn't go the way it should have, but I think that's the only time WWE and AEW would ever do something together. I think people like Swerve mean well, but at the end of the day, it's not Triple H's decision. It's big, higher up people on the food chain. So
exactly.
Yeah, before we go any further, much love, as always, to Jason Solomonster. He sent in a nice little birthday wish to you and a nice little gift as well. So
thank you. Yeah, thank you, Jason, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and that every penny goes to you. So,
Oh, jeez.
Hey, man, it's your birthday. I'm not going to take I'll take the candles, but you could have the cake, man.
I totally appreciate it. Big shout out to Solo Monster Sounds Off, one of the best in the game, and honestly, a guy who's a lot younger than us, but started out when we did. So that makes him. He was super young when we started out. I mean, me and you were over 30 already, and he was just probably on the late cusp of teenage years. And he's one of the OGs too. Jason is an original. No doubt about it.
He is. I mean, he's a good guy. He's class, and I still remember. About, 5 years ago, we had a little get together in Brooklyn, and there was all this tension online, and me and Jason hated each other. And I remember walking up to him, and I think the first thing I said to Jason was, I think he actually may have said it to me. He's like, why do we hate each other? And I was like, I don't know. I mean, he just a great guy.
And you know what's funny about that, DT? And I was working at the old Queens Club when you had that, and now I'm the GM of that club that you and Jason.
That's awesome, man. That's
how
awesome.
Funny is that? How crazy is life, right?
It's it's great to see everybody doing well. I mean, honestly, we even look back at those years to now. Everybody seems to be doing well. Jason's doing well. He's working House of Glory. JD is doing well. JD's doing, he's got that machine going really, really well. It's nice to see everybody doing well. I mean, at the end,
and they got that show on Tuesday too. Him and JD have teamed up for there was Tuesday Night Titans.
Or Tuesday night Titans.
TNT, and that was because I know JD lost his original partner, and he came back with an even bigger get. For once, this surprise actually panned out, because you know how it goes with wrestling surprises. But
I know.
that's a great team up, and it's a great show. I've gotten to check it out a couple of times, and it's a great team up. So they're doing good things over there with TNT.
Yeah. Much love to everybody out there, especially Jason and JD's. Thank you, Jason, again. Much love. Glad everything is doing well. Before we continue with the questions, actually, I got one that I wanted to share with you. Chaos, because Chaos, OTSTribalQueen, Austin Nance, always holding the ship down, even on Discord. Chaos wanted me to ask you, since you and him have similar backgrounds in the music industry, he would love to know your top 3 shows or bands that you've worked with over the years.
My number one favorite band that I work with, and we were lucky enough to give them their break here in New York. And to this day, they have the gargoyle from my old club, Castle Heights, on their tour bus is Mastodon. Anybody who's a big fan of Mastodon, they're a huge band. Same lineup too, never a lineup change. Same guys for the last 25 years in that band. And so Mastodon will be my favorite band. Shout out to all those guys, good dudes. Known for years. The biggest thrill of my life is when they played Central Park and they shouted out our old club. And the biggest pop I'll ever get in my life, DT. Uh, people were calling me that day. It's like, dude, I'm in Central Park. They just shouted out Castle Heights. The audience went crazy. I was like, really? He says, where are you? I'm like, I'm working in Queens at another club. But so I would say Mastodon, Hatebreed would be another one. Jamie Josta from Hatebreed's a good friend of mine. Started out together. Played their first show in Queens in '95 at my club when they were on the cusp of breaking. Hatebreed had their first record release party for Satisfaction as the Death of Desire at our club. So I would say Mastodon, Hatebreed, and another one would be guys I used to manage, and they're still going to this day, Sworn Enemy. Shout out to my friend Sal. Sworn Enemy's been around also now almost 25 years, still putting albums out. Good friends of mine. There's three bands I'm very proud of who started out with us. They weren't even headliners when they started out with us. Mastodon was filling in for another band, driving down from Georgia and playing New York for like $100 in gas money. And now they're, the last time they played Madison Square Garden with the Deftones and Alice in Chains.
That's awesome.
So like to see shit like that happen for bands like that who started out with us. Another band would be Shadows Fall. Shout out to Brian Fair and those guys at Shadows Fall. Started out with us, became a big global band. That's what I loved about the old days, is looking at the bands that kept grinding it out and just became very successful. So yeah, I mean, I still love the business. It's a lot. I'm on a different level now. I don't work with as big of bands anymore. I'm kind of back in the AAA leagues, kind of, giving people their start and kind of helping the next generation of bands. Hopefully 5-10 years from now, they're the next superstar bands. But those days and all the bands that broke out of that club, that I worked at. Not just me, it was everybody who worked there, from my sound man to my doorman. And Anthony, I'm still with some of those guys, but John the doorman's with me for 30 years.
That's cool,
working
man.
with me now over in the new club. I brought them over with me. So yeah, dude, I mean, the industry, I always say this, and I'll say this to him as he's asking the question: the industry is only as hard as other people want to make it for you. That's the way I look at it. Like you can have fun in this. It's a business, but it's the entertainment business. It's like anything else. It's cutthroat at times, but I'm glad I'm back in a small club now because there's not as much politics, not as much stress on the artist. It doesn't take much to fill that club. DT, you were there. It doesn't take a lot to fill that place.
Sure.
It holds about 150 people. I went from a club that holds 500 people to 150. I don't consider it a downgrade. I consider it I'm back in where I started, and I'm having fun again, and I'm working with my friends. And everybody no secret. I'll be 56 years old tomorrow, and this is like exactly where I need to be right now in my life.
Yeah. I mean, that's why, I mean, I know it sounds kind of cliche and it sounds a little bit politically correct, but nah, we are very, very high on seeing people that we like and, seeing good things happen to good people,
Absolutely.
especially this day and age that, there's always shortcuts that people will try to get, or, there's different reasons why people will get into the game, but to see people that truly, truly want it go out, not everybody gets it. I mean, there are definitely people out there who have tried and tried and tried and failed, but, when you do see people that do get the opportunity, it's a great thing to see. I mean, it's really, really cool. So very cool. Very cool. Big shout out to Roger Rubio. Yeah. Big shout out to Roger Rubio also.
What's up, Roger?
Yeah.
What's up, Roger?
A yoo-hoo for you and a coffee for me.
Nice.
Yes.
Beautiful.
I just finished having a coffee. I don't like drinking coffee after 4 p.m. because I have problems going to sleep at night, but I'll definitely pick up a cup of coffee tomorrow, Roger. But thank you for that, my friend.
Well, it's good because Yoo-hoo is actually caffeine free. So there you go.
Isn't it like a little bit? Well, it's not really chocolate. It's, it's flavoring.
I call it chocolate water plus. That's what it is. I mean, I don't drink. Obviously I don't drink as much as I used to, but I actually did buy one today just for the occasion. I did buy a Yoo-hoo, and I actually have one in my refrigerator right now.
Do you remember the Yoo-hoo ice cream bars?
Yeah, I used to get them when we were talking about was a week or two ago on DTKC Monday, I think, or it was maybe the Tuesday show when we were doing the Ask Us Anything a couple weeks
That's
ago.
right. Yes.
The independent ice cream
Yes.
guys used to have the Yoo-hoo bars. Yeah.
The ice cream trucks. Yes. Yes. You are right. You're right.
Yep.
That was a Patreon show. All right. Let's get into some more questions. K Morgan would like to know, did we ever subscribe to the Observer or the Torch?
Yeah, both of them. Some of you guys, most of you guys, I think know, or some of you might not know. John Draper is my real brother, my real younger brother in real life. And growing up in the '80s, I'm 3 years older than my brother. And we used to go to wrestling matches together. And in the mid '80s, back of a wrestling magazine, I think it was Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and we saw Wrestling Observer newsletter and Wrestling Torch. And my brother subscribed to one. He got Observer, I got Torch. So this way he would pay for that subscription. You know, we were teenagers, we had jobs. So we, paid our own way. So he got a subscription to the Observer. I think it was 87 or 88. And I got one to the Torch. And there would be a thing, we would let each other read it, but we had to read it first. You know what I'm saying? Like then we would switch off. We would throw it to each other. It'd be like, yo, you finished Torch? I'm like, yeah. I go, give me the Observer. So that was the way we rolled, like for the longest time. And my brother continued when he moved out and I moved out. I remember he used to, when I went over his apartment, I'm like, oh, you still getting, now you're the Torch and Observer. And he's like, yeah, it became a thing. Like we always got it. And it was something we looked forward to reading. It was kind of like just a relaxing thing for us. And listen, a lot of stuff they got right, some stuff they got wrong. But it was always interesting getting like the insider stuff, especially in 88, 89, 90, when the mainstream magazines, Bill Apter, pretty much admitted it. It was all work. Everything like when he said he interviewed Al Perez, he didn't interview him at all. Al one time said, yeah, Bill just embellished that interview.
Yeah.
I wanted to believe that they actually did interview the wrestlers. I mean, I know they were making some shit up, but I didn't realize how much bullshit the Wrestler Inside Wrestling Sports Review was. So the dirt sheets were a way to get some of that stuff, like Scotty the Body Levy, who became Raven years later, went to Portland. He just won the Portland Championship title from, the Grappler, and you wouldn't know that any other way. So I enjoyed again, kind of educating myself. My brother was educating himself, and I just like reading the stories and the rumor mills. When Bruiser Brody died, you didn't get the whole. You wanted to know what fucking happened, because Entertainment Tonight wasn't telling you what happened.
Right.
They were just saying that he got stabbed in a locker room. Like, how did this happen? The Torch and Observer in '88 in July were the only way to find out what the fuck happened. Well, one of my favorite wrestlers just got killed. So that was a staple mate in our house up. And Draper says the same thing. I feel bad that I sometimes have to take shots at Keller and Meltzer. It's almost, I don't have to, but my brother says the same thing. He goes, you know how much we worshiped these guys when we were younger? We were teenagers in our 20s. My brother John says the same thing. He takes no pleasure in kind of ripping into Dave Meltzer, but they've both become ridiculous with some of the shit that they spread, Anthony.
Yeah.
Not for nothing. So I mean, but I respect the old version of those dudes. Today, I think they're just gaslighting and spreading false narratives. Me and DT talk about clickbait, right? DT is more the better word to say. And I don't know why, because those guys are super historians, and I get that it's competitive. We were just talking before, Jason Solomon, Conrad, JD. There's room out there for a lot of people, but the one thing, and I think DT agrees with me, if me and DT ever wanted to get back together for the reasons of, dude, let's just say what everybody wants to hear and we'll make a lot of money. Me and DT would have been like, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that.
Yeah.
I'd rather not do the show if I have to placate to people, bullshit, and just do a false narrative just to make a dime. I'd rather not even do this anymore. So that's why I'm glad we got back together for the right reasons. But I see some of my heroes that I used to look up to, and now I feel like I'm not going to I give them props for still being in it, but not the narrative they spread. Dave Meltzer gets things so wrong now. You're better off just throwing it up against the wall and taking a guess of what happened.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, I still, appreciate Dave Meltzer. I subscribed to the Observer for many, many, many years. Torch, I'd never subscribed to. Wade Keller, I had issues with Wade Keller, but it was more of a personal thing. It was the way, we would be ignored if we had like the wrestling shows with Frank Goodman and USA Pro Wrestling, and it was very, very frustrating to send, information on shows and things that would go down, and even little news things, and they would just ignore it, no sell it. Dave Meltzer and Bill Apter were the only two people back then that would ever acknowledge anything that we would send in, and I always appreciated that. I subscribed to the Observer for a long time, almost as an appreciation for little things that he did for me back in the day. I mean, we don't need to bring him up now because people like to, spin it, in a terrible way. But, I still appreciate Dave Meltzer. But it's pretty obvious now, I think because of age, and I think because a lot of the connections have been cut off, and he doesn't have the connections like he used to, that sometimes he just guesses and it's pretty blatant. The only issue I've ever had really with Dave over the years is this. I knew decades ago that he was a huge fan of Japanese wrestling. I respected that. He would focus a lot more on Japanese wrestling. That's cool. I know what he really likes, and I know the style he likes, and I respect that. What gets me is when he does get something horribly wrong, there is almost never listen, I reported this in the last issue, just to clarify, apparently, my sources were wrong, or I got this wrong. Once in a while, admitting you're wrong and apologizing for it is fine. We had this conversation not too long ago about just people in general with wrestling storylines today. People are so embedded into what they believe about certain things in wrestling that if you come out there with just common sense, if it's totally against their viewpoint and they end up being wrong, they get angry for it. People that got worked for WrestleMania 40, instead of just saying, wow, man, you guys fucking work the wrestling audience, and, but no, they just get angry like, no, I know this was supposed to happen. Like, oh man, they're sports entertainers. They're supposed to blur the lines. They're supposed to make you think something is happening when it's not. If you take a step back sometimes, but I think the problem with Wade Keller and even Dave Meltzer now is, there's going to come to a time where the newsletters are going to be done. Now it's almost like all gossip than anything else.
Well, also DT, they all podcast. Does Wade Keller have a podcast? I know Alvarez.
Yeah, he does.
And Meltzer though. I never really listened to it, but that's the whole thing. It's the podcast, the talking game. It's the verbiage. It's not really what anybody writes anymore. The writing thing is kind of like with Cornette, who's got the #1 podcast. We say it all the time. Audio is never going to go out of style, but writing a sheet, I think after a while, people are going to be like, I'd rather listen to the news than read it. Some people always want to read. I mean, I like to read things too sometimes, but yeah, it's kind of an outdated thing. And I think now you got to hang on a verbal sense. And honestly, Brian Alvarez can talk, but Dave Meltzer is not a very good talker. He just isn't. I'm not trying to put him down, but he's not. He doesn't have the good gift of gab. A lot of and it kind of it almost throws me into a fucking what's an epileptic.
Well, what I think it is?
I can't listen to him. It gets me fucked up when I listen to him.
I think his problem is that he thinks about his answers before he says it, and either he's intentionally lying, and wants to make sure he says the right thing, or he's afraid of saying the wrong thing. And I think when he ums and does that, I know exactly what you're talking about. I think he's trying to think about the answer before he says it instead of just saying it. And if you say it, you get a little bit of repercussions for it, and I think at the end of the day, people would be like, you know what? I don't agree with the guy, but, at least he takes a point and he sticks with it. But in a lot of cases, he tries to, and sometimes he doesn't know the answer. Like there'll be a dirt sheet thing about a wrestler in WWE and he doesn't know the answer. And instead of just saying, look, I don't know, I'll get the answer, I'll look into it, I'll get back to everybody. No, he just throws an answer out of there with a 50 ums mixed in with it. And then a lot of times he gets it wrong, and then you realize he just winged the answer.
Yeah, I think there's nothing. That's another thing I think in our community is nothing wrong as a podcaster or even on X on a tweet of someone. If you don't know the answer, just say, hey, I really don't know. There's people who tag me and stuff. Kev, you know about this? I'm like, don't know anything about it. I'll check it out though. There's nothing wrong with saying that you don't know. You can't know everything. You don't know everything. I'm 31 years in the club business. I still learn new things. I learn. I'll try new methods or try something different. The know-it-all thing to me is a turnoff in the IWC. There's nothing wrong with saying, I don't know, but I want to check it out. I'll learn. That's what I mean. You educate yourself. The people think of this like machismo, which these guys don't even have anyway, or an ego. It's more ego, not machismo. It's more egotistical.
Yeah.
Of I can't be. I'm right. You're wrong. I knew that. Oh, I knew that already. Like just like, dude, this isn't a contest. You don't get a prize
Yeah.
for this kind of stuff. And the fans know you're human already, so you're allowed to make mistakes. You know what I mean? Or you could always say, my bad, I was wrong. I was wrong. You know what I mean?
It took me many years to grow up with that. I was guilty of that for many, many years. I am man enough to admit it now. I have admitted it publicly several times. I used to be very guilty of that. Took a lot of years for me to finally just come to that moment like, hey, if I don't know it, just be honest and say you don't know it and just, you know.
Hey, just don't know the answer. You know, Lord knows I said that enough in school. I don't know the answer. I'm not paying attention. What was that again?
Yeah. K. Morgan wants to know, is HGH good for wrestling? He says that helps guys 50 and above, helps them still go. Do you think HGH is good?
Only if it can help me grow a soccer mom haircut like AJ Styles. I don't know about that. I mean, I think there's something about it's a detriment too, because why would you want to? And is that healthy to be so overly muscled in your late 40s and 50s to be that jacked and yoked in your 50s? I don't know about all that. I mean, I always found it weird when someone takes off their shirt, young body, old face. You know what I'm saying? Like, that always kind of weird. You know, who's the third guy running for president, DT? Kennedy? What's
I
his
don't
name?
know. I haven't followed politics.
Who's that guy who's running for the third party? Married to the girl from Curb Your Enthusiasm. What's his name? The RFK. Dude is fucking jacked, but he's got the old face, so it like throws you off. Like if you look at the body, like who's that dude? And then you see, holy shit, you think it's like it's fucking photoshopped. But it's good to keep. But there's something about being heavily muscled in your upper middle age that doesn't seem right to me. I mean, lean, yeah, but heavily jacked up. AJ Styles looked like he put on 30 pounds of muscle. Is that really necessary in a 5'8" frame? You know what I'm saying? So I'm not, and plus his skin looks bad. He's got acne all over his face. I don't know about all that. The HGH if HGH causes your face to break out in huge pock marks, no, I'm not for it.
Yeah, I don't like HGH in wrestling only because if you get results, it's very, very difficult to say, okay, I know when to say when. I don't know how prevalent it is in wrestling today because of, the drug testing that WWE does and everything like that. But, I think, it's in the end, you're enhancing your body in a way that is not meant to be. And I think that could only cause issues down the line. You're playing Russian roulette with your body. I don't think it's a good idea. I really don't. It's kind of like putting nitrous oxide in a regular car engine. Like if your car is not equipped to have like uber turbo shit attached to it, it's probably not a good idea to like be adding nitrous and other things to it because you might blow your engine. That's what I kind of look at with HGH.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's so many. You know, it reminds me, DT, of today, and I just, as much as it's a miracle drug, and I know people on it, mostly women, not too many men, but I think it's going to catch on with men. Is that Ozempic?
Oh,
that
I was
people are
on it
taking now. Oh, well, you want? I mean, but I just get this feeling that we don't know enough about it, and down the road, there's something not right here. That you're losing weight so quickly, and it's a diabetic drug. So it's not like if you don't have diabetes and you're taking a diabetic drug. I actually find that offensive. I don't know about all this because again, it's get quick, and are we going to find out things years later that we think we know now, but we're not sure, and then people start. Again, major organs start failing in their 50s and 60s. I don't know, man. I mean, you got to listen. Someone's got to fucking die on a sword, literally. When you take experimental drugs and stuff that's, even if it's approved by the FDA or whatever, there's things down the road that can happen. I mean, even still, with everyone getting with the COVID shots and stuff, it affected some people in the worst kind of way. Other people didn't feel it at all. Other people can get something down the road. Nothing is surefire. But something that makes, I have two female friends who look so dramatically different, DT, in the course of 4 months.
Yeah.
I didn't even recognize her when she stopped by my house to drop off a birthday gift. I thought it was like a stranger coming into my hallway. And I'm like, look at you. Holy shit. And by the way, this is a woman who didn't need to lose weight.
Yeah.
And I'm not putting her down. She looks great, but she doesn't look like herself. And I'm like, yeah, I guess it is a miracle drug, but what price comes with that down the road?
I was on it for 3
know?
months and I got off of it. It definitely.
Did you have any adverse side effects?
Yeah. I'm almost scared to say what my biggest adverse side effect is, but I'll tell everybody this. I was on it last year for about 3 months, and
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Okay.
yeah, the reason why I went off of it was because there was a shortage in the pharmaceutical world with that. So I had to go off of it for a month. And when you go off of it, it really fucks your body up. And when I went back on it, my body didn't react the same way. When I first was on it, I dropped 20 pounds like nothing. But the second time around,
my friend dropped 40 pounds. Like I said, unrecognizable. I didn't even recognize her.
What it does is it fucks with your hormones. And when you eat food, like when you eat food, it like stays in your stomach for whatever, 3 hours, 6 hours, and it goes in your intestine, and then you absorb the nutrients and you shit out everything else and you pee out whatever else too. What Ozempic does is it slows down your metabolism so the food stays in your stomach for like 12 hours, 14 hours. So you feel fuller for a longer period of time. So you eat a little bit and then you're like, nah, I don't want any more. And it does work that way. But the problem for me, without getting really gross, is I had bad constipation to the point that I had to buy surgical gloves. If anybody could, I mean, one time I was in the bathroom, I'm not going to get explicit, but let's just say that was the deciding point. I was like, you know what? I ain't going on this shit no more. Now, I'm just on keto and I just, gradually losing the weight again. It's a struggle, but I would never go on Ozempic again. It's too much money and still, like you said, there's a lot of unknown that I really don't think it's a smart thing to stay on, especially if you're not diabetic. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Be grateful that you're not.
Yeah. Bob the Builder sent this in earlier. Where do we rank CM Punk all time?
For me personally, I would go top 30.
Okay.
Top 30. I'm not gonna say 50. That's a little extreme. Top 20. No, that would be. I know too many guys ahead of him. I'm gonna go top 30. If there's a top 40, I put in my top 30. Of biggest stars, greatest stars of all time, give or take, personal opinion. Yeah, I'm going to go, if there's a top 40 of my greatest wrestling stars of all time, CM Punk is near 25 to 30, in my opinion, in the rankings.
Okay. I mean, if I'm going to go since I've been watching wrestling in 79, I probably would put him, I think he would be around 30. If he's not in my top 30, he'd probably be in my top 50. He's definitely within the top 50, but when I think of just like decades and I think of the Bret Harts and you think of even the legends from the 70s and the 80s, there's got to be at least 10 or 50. Right. Yeah, there's got to be at least like 20 people ahead of him. Then you think of NWA and you think of WCW. I mean, I think CM Punk for this generation, I definitely think he's top 20 of this generation.
Of this generation, yeah. And also, DT, you got to, like I said, people got to remember, top 30 is a huge compliment. You're talking about thousands of wrestlers spanning back. Let's even do a cutoff from 1970 on. You're still talking about thousands of wrestlers. Top 30 is a good place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's a knock at all. I think anybody that's in the top 25, top 30, that is definitely a big deal. So
absolutely, yeah.
Shout out to Umar. Sent this earlier this week. Let's get in his first question first. First, he wanted to wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you, Umar.
Do we question us both? Women's wrestling, is this the best era ever for women's wrestling?
I mean, a lot of people probably say the women's evolution. A few years, 7 years back it's been now.
Yeah.
The first women's pay-per-view. But no follow-up on that, which I always thought was weird. You know what? Maybe, yeah. Because TNA has some great stars now, not just Jordan Grace, but they got a plethora of girls underneath her that are great. Obviously, NXT has a great roster. Shawn Michaels doing a great job with those people. And on the main roster, you got Tiffany, Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair. I mean, you can just go on and name these girls. Mm-hmm. And then go over to AEW. As much as I make fun of AEW, mostly in jest, I don't want to see anything bad happen to anybody. I love Thunder Rosa. I mean, it's one of my absolute favorite people in wrestling. And they got some Tony Storm is killing it over there, no doubt about it. And then you got say what you want, but Mercedes Moné, I mean, say what you want, Deonna Purrazzo. I would probably say, yeah. I mean, look, back in the day, DT, you remember when Trisha and Lita were going at it? Only people complimented with Trisha and Lita when you think about it.
Yep.
Everyone else was just kind of an afterthought or a valet or somebody else. I think it could be possible, better than the Bella era and even the AJ era, AJ Lee, even though they were important in the women's evolution. Right now, I think we're looking at the best. I mean, just the fact that you're going to have Jordynne Grace from another company in a main event against Roxanne Perez, who I love as a heel, by the way. She's so adorable, though. I don't know how anybody can hate her. She's so cute.
Yep.
I tell you, young guys, man, if I was in my 20s, I'd be all about that girl. She's fucking gorgeous. But she's so nice, and even when she's kind of promo as a heel, she's adorable. But so that's a great match. Just doing something like that, that's an evolution right there. That's something to hang your hat on. It might be, Umar. It might be right now. We might be living in the best era for women.
I absolutely agree, and I agree because of the number of top quality women in wrestling today. When Kev and I were fans of wrestling in the 80s, even in the 90s, we could come up with Medusa, you come up with Jacqueline, Molly Holly, Trish and Lita were not the most polished wrestlers out there, but they had all the tools. We could come up with probably 10 or 20 women and maybe even struggle with that. When TNA came around in 2002 and they started building up the Knockouts division, then you had Gail Kim and you had Awesome Kong. And, at one point, we thought that TNA's women's division was better than the WWE's women's division. This day and age, there's probably, I think if we really took our time, we probably could come up with a minimum of 40 women in wrestling today that we think are absolutely, doing a great job, from NXT to WWE to AEW to the other companies out there, TNA, and even on the indie circuit, there's quite a few women that are killing it. So I agree. I think this is the greatest era for women's wrestling because of the amount of women that are producing right now compared to back in the day. Because look, there were times back in the day we would be focused on like 4 women. Might be woman. It might be Medusa, it might be Sherry Martel, and
exactly, very few. I mean, now you got dozens and dozens of women. We're nearing the hundreds of women, actually.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's come a long way. I think it doesn't even really have a ways to go. It's where Triple H and Shawn Michaels and Nick Khan and stuff decide what, how to feature these women. I think they're still featuring them well. I think there's been a good amount of women's matches on the premium live events lately. And again, NXT coming up is built around Roxanne now versus, Jordynne Grace, which I think a lot of people are going to tune in for.
Yeah, I agree. Umar also asks, is there any way minimum wage in the USA works? In the UK, their minimum wage is 11 and a quarter pounds, which is $14.25 American per hour, and they do not have a tipping culture. So, yeah, I know where you're going to go with it. I know where you're going to go with it.
You don't know where I'm going to go, because you know what I did by accident today, but I let it go.
Okay.
A woman made a mistake. I ordered something to take out. I had Tuesday. I usually do food shopping and for I got to buy stuff for the cats. So just even for myself, refrigerator's going on bare empty now. And usually I'm not like that. I usually keep stock pretty good, but I've just been behind because of work. So I ordered out. And the woman made a mistake on the, what I ordered and left off an item. Didn't charge me, but I had the money prepared for what I ordered because I figured it out and I got the total and I had it in my hand, and I ended up, no joke, tipping the guy $20 on a 1995 order. I gave
shit! I didn't think I wasn't going there.
I gave him more tip than my food items cost.
Wow!
And he says, and I didn't realize it. And he says to me, "God bless you, brother." And he gives me like the Bruce Lee bow, like I'm a karate dojo man.
And you look at him like, what is this guy?
And I'm like, he's like, "God bless you, brother." And I was like, yeah, 101% tip. And I was like, did I just? And I looked at my hand. I went to the table. I'm like, motherfucker! Oh shit! I doubled. No wonder why the guy said, "God bless you, brother," and like practically blew a kiss at me. And I was like, shit! I did. I'm still, and I let it go. Because I went out in the hallway. He was still going to his car. I'm like, you know what? He got me on that one. That I'll just let it go.
Now you one of those that now you have to maintain it. Like if he comes by again, like if he doesn't do the bow, that something's wrong.
I hope he shows up tomorrow because he's getting $5 tomorrow. That's what he's getting. But I gave 19. My bill was $19.94.
Wow.
Good year, by the way, and I gave him 20, so I gave him $40 pretty much.
Oh wow,
$19 item.
I was going to go in a different direction about fast food. I went Friday night to my brother's wife's 50th birthday party, and it was great. We went to Rockaway, and they had this ventriloquist by the name of John Peasy that was on America's Got Talent. That guy fucking killed it. But the thing was that all the food sucked. So on my way home, I hit McDonald's. And I was going to mobile order it. This way I didn't have to wait online, and it ended up being a crazy line anyway. But when I pulled over to mobile order, I'm looking at it. It's like a Big Mac is like $9.
Dude,
and
it's fucking out of control, man. It's out of control.
It's
I took
ridiculous.
the guys out 2 weeks ago. We carpool home, and we kick in for money. James drives the truck, and everybody drop off one of the dancers, drop off DJ. I'm in with my friend Mike. And usually the three of us wind up going through the drive-through. So he doesn't charge me for gas. I got him his job, so he doesn't charge me. But I buy the food. So we go to Taco Bell again. We go to order, I don't know how much it is. I'm like, I give him $30 or whatever. And he goes, I go, how much is it? He goes, $47.95 for it. And we didn't order that much. I was like, $50 for this shit. And he's like, why don't you just pull? I'll just pull out of here. I'll just go drive right through. I'm like, we didn't get the food yet. I was like, you know what? Again, she got me now too. Everybody's getting me lately. Yeah. I'm like, but because I gave him $30. I'm like, we did not order even for, James is 6'8", 320, and fucking Larry in the back is 6'5", about 275, but we didn't order a lot of food. And I couldn't believe it. I thought 30, 35. I was like, dude, 47. I was like, 47? I said, what the fuck? He's like, James is getting the food. He goes, yeah, fuck Joe Biden. And he puts the fucking food in the car. I was like, Jesus Christ. But yeah, I mean, not even to get political, but you guys got to admit, food items are out of control in this country. Jesus Christ, man. $47 for 3 guys with Taco Bell. What the fuck?
Yeah, that's.
So remember when Taco Bell was cheap, DT, back in the day?
I still remember the dollar menus. The dollar menus, even on McDonald's, the dollar menus, like those burgers for $1. Even White Castle's out of control.
White Castle too. They used to be a big go-to. It used to be down the block from the old club I worked at, Castle Heights on Jackson Heights down Northern Boulevard. I think it's still there, Northern Boulevard. And my friend Gary Muttley was in the neighborhood. They were shooting some video for some retrospective documentary. And he said the same thing. He goes, dude, you know how expensive? And that's everybody I talk to now says the same thing about everywhere they go. And that's why everyone's, and I like cooking. Do you and your wife cook a lot at home, DT, or do you order out?
A little bit.
Yeah, I mean, when I go shopping Tuesday, I'm shopping for 7 days a week. I am not giving away money anymore to these fucking joints.
Yeah, I don't spend like I used to. It's I get it. People work hard; they deserve to get paid good. But what a lot of people don't understand is not a political point, but if you're going to pay $15 an hour minimum wage to someone, the store is going to raise their prices to offset that. I mean,
that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing.
Even my father's deli. I mean, he has every year a budget that he uses for payroll, and when they're given, I've seen it. My father gets a letter in the mail from the New York State Insurance Fund that says that you must, pay a specific workers in the store at least a certain amount of money. And even in like some carpentry, construction, home improvement businesses, you have to pay someone minimum $20, $25. So what does he do? He either raises the prices or he has 2 people work in the deli instead of 3. So somebody loses their job.
Split the difference, really, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little out of control. So, nothing is free in this world. And when they raise prices, then we all have to pay in some way. And that's what's going on right now. And the worst thing about it is they're never going to reverse the minimum wage. So this $15 an hour, that stays. So how do you, offset it? The only way you could do it is by people making more money to offset the extra expense. And I don't know how that happens, but right now it's pretty rough because I never in a million years, I hear even in New York City, a Big Mac, or in California, it's like $15 for a Big Mac. I mean, I'm still thinking of the Subway $5 footlongs.
Dude, the other day I bought a bagel, $137. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it's fucking. I mean, it really is out of control, and I hope even some of you young folks don't think, oh, those old people complaining about. Nah, dude, believe me, it's going to affect you. And if you happen to live at home and parents foot the bill, or you have food in the refrigerator and you're still at that age where you don't got to kind of worry about that yet because you're not out on your own. If you were, you would be panicking right now. It's really super expensive. Even my shopping bill, DT, and I'm single shopping for pets and myself. My bill's gone up easily about 30% in the last couple of years as far as what I used to spend and what I spend now on the same items, by the way. I'm not increasing anything. I'm buying the same shit, but it's up by about 25, 30%.
Well, I'll say this. You know, we were having a conversation Monday, and I knew on Twitter, I think I ended up deleting the tweet because I knew nobody out there was going to criticize AEW. I mean, and AEW is not the problem. It's just overall society as a whole. But you look at that MJF shirt that they put on sale, which is ridiculous. You and I had the conversation last Monday about how cheap it is to make because it's just one color of ink. But they're selling that shirt between $42 and $53 between shipping and sales tax. And it's like, you know, that shirt, you know, you're charging $50 for a shirt that's just in white letters. It's just across the board. Everything is getting out of control. So, you know, believe me, there's many days during the week I eat hot dogs for dinner, or I buy Bubba burgers, which are frozen burgers. They're not that bad. You know, you get you get like 8 burgers for $11, and like, hey, that's not bad. That's $1.50 for a burger compared to going to. I don't even buy many things in my dad's store anymore. I walked into that. I said, I'm not kidding. I said to my dad like a month ago, I'm like, Dad, $12 for a pound of cheese? Like, come on. I mean, I remember it was $2.99.
DT should go there and F with your dad. Go, what's with these prices? Oh my God!
My wife loves these little marinated mozzarella balls with garlic and oil.
Oh yeah, I like that.
I have a container inside because I wanted to get laid tonight, so I bought a little container. I'm going to take a picture of the sticker, and I'm going to put it tomorrow in the Discord chat. I want you to see how much they charge a pound for just mozzarella cheese.
Wow, yeah.
Put it this way.
Everything is up, man.
Put it this way. 10, 15 years ago, we could have gone to Jackson Heights, Roosevelt Avenue, if you know where I'm going with that.
No, I know where you're going with that. Like I worked in that area, but it's just super expensive now. But hopefully, you know, the prices of the minimum wage is not going to change, right, DT? But the food prices can fluctuate. They can always go back down.
No, I'm hoping that our taxes go down. If they could bring the taxes down and offset it in that way, I think that'll help everybody a little bit. Yeah,
and then a loaf of bread won't cost $7.99.
Yeah, some eggs $12 for a dozen still. If you want,
I haven't bought eggs since January started. Seriously.
Want to thank Chaos. That was very, very generous of you, my friend. Sent a 20 spot. Happy birthday, Kev. Missed the sit downs on Sundays. Listen, guys, if we get nice turnouts and you know this could help us pay the bills a little bit. You know, we'll do more of these special episodes on a Sunday night. You know, I mean,
absolutely,
yeah. I mean, I don't want listen for Kev and I, especially after decades of doing this. It's not all about money. It's obviously a big part of it because of the amount of time that we put into these shows. It's sometimes frustrating to put in, and you come back and you got $3.11 out of it. But you know, if the turnouts are good. And we don't have people trying to sabotage, you know, what we do. Expect more of these. So I don't mind doing Sunday nights.
No,
we can't do it every Sunday.
Do more of them. No, not every Sunday night. But shout out, by the way, to Dark Temperatures. Trez is in the chat.
Oh, very cool. Shout out to Trez.
Yeah, Trez is my partner on KNT Chronicles on the DTKC Patreon on Thursday nights.
Yeah, I was watching.
So those who don't know.
Because of her fandomhood for Vincent Price, I watched The Last Man on Earth in color on YouTube not too long ago.
Oh, nice.
And I found a whole bunch of vintage Vincent Price commercials from the 70s when he was pushing like soup and all this other stuff. I have a newfound appreciation for Vincent Price.
Remember when he hosted the Muppet Show in the 70s?
I think so. I did not. I don't remember the Muppet Show. I mean, I remember the Muppet Show, but I don't remember specific
late
guests.
70s. Yeah. Late 70s on Channel 2, 7:30 at night. He used to come on, and then on other nights, DT, remember In Search Of, what Leonard Nimoy used to be on.
Yeah.
Remember In Search Of?
I do remember that.
Was great.
He was in a show, I think in 79, there was a new TV series that he was on for like 3 or 4 episodes, and then they dropped it. For some reason, it wasn't drawing ratings, but man, talk about somebody that was just meant for horror films. That guy was great, man.
Yeah, great voice. Yeah.
And very tall. He was very intimidating. If you saw just him standing next to people, very, very intimidating. So
absolutely, yeah.
Thank you again, Chaos, for that. Much love.
Yes, thank you, Guardian.
VJ wants to know, saw the Amy Wine. I'm sorry, I think the W stands for Winehouse. Saw the Amy Winehouse biography. It's okay. What's our favorite music bio of all time?
First of all, shout out to who's that? JR Savage, you said?
No, VJ.
Oh, VJ. Sorry, shout out to VJ. The Amy Winehouse bio. I didn't see it yet. I know it. I usually like watching documentaries. It's on my list of ones to watch. My favorite music bio. That's a good one. I watched the Ronnie James Dio one not too long ago. I'm trying to think which other ones I watched in the last few months. During COVID, I watched a lot of bio and documentaries. Trying to think as far as my favorite. I love the Leonard Skinner one that they did on Skinner with the plane crash in '77 that killed Ronnie Van Zant. So I'd probably say the Leonard Skinner one. That was one of my favorites. Trying to think of any other music docs that I like. I did like the Ronnie James Dio one. I mean, Dio was a nice guy. There wasn't anything. It was not a real dark side of the ring episode, DT. It's just unfortunately that he succumbed to his illness so quickly. Ronnie James, he'd still be with us today. Anything on Ozzy or Black Sabbath or Zeppelin, obviously Zeppelin documentaries, Rolling Stones. I love watching the old rock bands documentaries because they really live that lifestyle, and you're amazed that some of these guys lived through it. So anything that's old rock and roll, 70s rock, 80s rock bios. I like the Motley Crue bio that was out, the Netflix documentary that they made. So yeah, I'd probably say that. But Skinner was my favorite one. I loved it because they went to the site of the plane crash all those years later, almost 50 years later. So yeah, that one was my favorite. I'm going to check out the Amy Winehouse one though.
I have to go in a different direction. I mean, it's interesting. I watched the biography on YouTube not too long ago about Freddie Mercury, and I was really into it, and I could not find like a really good documentary of the guy. There's just, I don't think one exists, but there was a TV series called Unsung, and
I used to watch that. I watch that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, Kev and I mean, at one point, for a very short period of time, Kev and I, we had a similar taste of music. Don't get me wrong, I love Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, U2. There's some classic groups that I love, but I was always into like R&B and disco and house music. And Unsung normally does biographies on the Black culture. Primarily.
Mostly African American artists.
Yeah.
It's very good though. I mean, they've done ones even on who's the one who sings "Freak Like Me," Adina Howard.
Okay.
They did one from Adina Howard to.
They did Tina Marie.
They did Tina Marie. Tina Marie is one of my favorite singers of all time and very much accepted in the Black. She's white, by the way, Tina Marie.
Yeah.
If some of you young guys hear her voice and you see a picture of her, you'd be blown away. But yeah, they did one on Tina Marie, Rick James. Everyone, Teddy Pendergrass, DT, remember him? The
sure.
Soulful voice of Teddy Pendergrass, one of the greatest voices of all time. Barry White, all guys like that. So Unsung is very good. I think what network is that on, DT? Is it on
BET
or is
BET.
it on? It's on BET. Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's BET.
Good stuff on there, man. About a lot of. It is the unsung artists who maybe some would call them one-hit wonders, but I wouldn't even call them that because they had a few hits.
Yeah, I love watching documentaries. It just for some reason, when it comes to music, I don't know. It's a little strange. My wife was actually watching one, I think tonight on, I think Aaron Carter's. He the one that died.
Yeah, Aaron Carter is
yeah,
Nick Carter from what was not in
Backstreet Boys.
Backstreet Boys. Yeah,
Yeah, I
his
think
brother
Backstreet. She
died.
was watching that tonight. I was listening to it in the background, but you know, as far as the series, I was always into Unsung. But want to shout out to RJ, the Brooklyn. I think that's Savage cut off. He's
That
not
is
the
the Brooklyn Savage,
Sava.
yes.
Yeah, BJ, the Brooklyn
Savage.
Sava. Savage. No question.
RJ.
Just wanted to show some love. Happy birthday, Kevin. Keep up the great work, gentlemen. Thank you, RJ.
Thanks, RJ.
Very much appreciated. And also want to thank Roger Rubio. He said he has some love for the washer and dryer. Big happy birthday, Kev. Want to wish you guys the best. Always appreciate the entertainment and the great moments the past 7 years he's been around. So, Roger, much love, my friend.
Thank you, Roger. Yeah, Roger. Roger's a San Francisco 49ers fan, but I still love him.
Yeah, I think he likes the Giants, too. He's always bringing
a big
up the
Giants
Giants.
fan. Roger's a good sport, though, because even when the Giants beat Mets asses, and look, anybody can beat up the Mets these days. The Mets are just ridiculous. But Roger's always like, sorry, but good game, Kev. Good game. Roger's always a good sport, whether the Dodgers win or whether the Giants win or lose or they beat the Mets. He's always a good sport.
Hey, Barry Bonds is still one of my favorite players of all time. I think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, I know he used, growth hormones, but a lot of players that are in the Hall of Fame that never got busted for it also used. So,
and Bonds was a great player before he used that.
Oh, yeah.
He was already a Hall of Famer before that.
I thought he was great on the Pirates. I thought he was great on the Pirates.
He was so skinny on the Pirates, though.
Yeah.
He was like a different man. He's a different man.
Well, it is true fact. At one point, when he used to wear the hanging, the hanging earring of the cross, I actually at one point almost bought one.
Oh, really?
He used to wear them in the 80s, and I remember when he was on the Pirates because we used to play the Mets a lot, and I would see him wearing this hanging little gold cross on his ear, and I almost bought one because he was wearing it. Wow. I didn't because I think I would have looked stupid wearing it, but. And I still have not bought a washer and dryer, Roger. What happened was I ordered an electric one and I had no idea that I had a gas one. So Home Depot showed up at my house Thursday and they said, no, you ordered the wrong washer and dryer. So I'm waiting for Home Depot to credit me back so I can order a gas one. So I'm going to be without a dryer for another 2 weeks, but it's all right. We're working around it. But thank you, Roger. Mr. Morgan, did we use cable descramblers back in the 80s and the 90s?
Cable descramblers.
Well,
what was that?
AKA
you're talking about the hot
illegal
box
cable
thing?
box. Yeah, the hot box.
Oh yeah, no. My father was like on the cusp of that in the mid '80s. Yeah, and then I had one in my first apartment when I moved in. Me and my brother Joe moved in together in 1992 when we moved out of my parents' house. And my brother Joe got one for us too. We had it for a few years, and then I don't remember what happened, if it just phased out or one day it just didn't work anymore, I think. And then we had to start paying for legal cable like around 96. One day my brother's like, shit don't work anymore. I'm like, what are you then we went legit, so to speak, after that. But we got away with it for a couple of years.
Yeah, this is a true story. My parents had an illegal box when I still lived with them up until the 90s, the mid 90s. And, my parents, like whenever my mother went out for the day and my father was at work, they would lock their bedroom door. And it's because they have money up there and stuff. And, at that time I wasn't the most trustworthy person to be around, but that's the truth. I mean, a lot of people know the story. I got kicked out of my house in 88 and, but, when my mom would go out, I would take a butter knife and I would pop their bedroom door open and I would go up and I would watch like the Spice Network.
Oh God.
I would watch funny. The Playboy channel and all that. And the only thing I remember about those channels was the channel numbers were not the same as what the guides would say. So channel 3 might be naked stuff, where normally it would be channel like 70 or something like that. But I will give my parents credit. Whenever there was a WWF pay-per-view, they allowed me to bring the box into my room, connect it with the, with the cable cord, and I could watch WWF pay-per-views for free.
That's what we were doing back in the day, the late 80s, early 90s. We were getting those for free. And again, I can't pinpoint the time, but it just one day did not work.
Yeah.
And it just, I think they found a way to changed the game on that, and then we just had to get legal Cablevision, and that was it for that.
Do you remember the late night adult show? I think it was called Electric Blue.
I think yes, I do remember Electric Blue. Yeah,
I think it was
do remember
Electric
that.
Blue. It was called.
It was Electric. It was Electric Blue. It was.
It was. So, Raul Harris, thank you for being a member of the family for 10 months. He wants our overall thoughts on the Vince McMahon $1 Million Mania segments. It's when Vince was giving away money.
When was that? I mean, I recall it, but when was that?
That was the late 2000s, and they were trying to get the ratings, like it was for a ratings ploy, and he would call somebody live on the show, if I remember, and they would answer the phone and they would win money. The only thing I do remember about those segments is that it was to pop a rating, and the ratings did not do well. So they ended up doing a segment where Vince, I think, fell through the floor, and they played off that he was seriously injured, and the whole thing ended abruptly.
Yeah, people are, I guess, having a problem remembering it. Some people are saying it was 06, 7, 8, or 9. I think it was 08.
I'll tell you right now. I mean, it could look. It definitely was after the Benoit tragedy, because I remember Vince having very short hair at the time. Was
it before Vince and Donald Trump went at it? That was before that, for the WrestleMania with Umaga and Lashley.
It was 2008.
Was it before or after?
It was 2008.
That was before, right?
It had to have been before, yeah, because Trump was after 2008.
What was the Umaga versus Lashley, Trump and McMahon? What year was that?
I could tell you right now, Trump, Umaga.
Chat room would probably get it.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now. That was WrestleMania 23.
2007?
The WrestleMania 23. Oh, shit. It was. Yeah, the $1 Million Mania was after Trump. Holy shit.
It was after Trump.
Trump was before the Benoit tragedy.
Yeah, everyone's saying 07. Yeah. That just shows you how time goes by. 2007 was like a lifetime ago now.
Yeah, we're approaching the 17-year anniversary of the Benoit tragedy. I think it was June 25th. It was right around. It was in June, that I do remember.
Yeah, I mean, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, but look, it was all to try to get a ratings pop, and it didn't work. And WWE just realized, look, we're giving out this money and we're not getting any ratings, out of it, and they abruptly ended it. So it just didn't work out all that well.
Wow.
Shout out to, OTSTribalQueen, 8 months as not only a channel member, but she holds the ship in the chat room. So
thank you very much, Tribal Queen.
Yeah, she says, thanks for having me here. JD and Guardian of Chaos highly recommended us back in the day, and she wanted to wish you happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for that. Demarcus with a 5 spot. Demarcus, happy birthday, Kev. What's up, DT? What's the best use of Charlotte when she returns back?
I think she should work in food and beverage. No, I'm just kidding. Listen, there's so many younger upcoming talents coming. Charlotte, this time when Charlotte comes back, she cannot continue to take these long powders, DT, whether health, breast implants, leg, back, married, divorce, whatever. She takes long breaks. Has Charlotte, someone correct me if I'm wrong, has in the last 10 years, Charlotte clocked in 2 full years being on the fucking roster without being out for a significant period of time? I think the answer is no. 2 years. Has she clocked in 2 full years without injury or getting married or has to go find herself, has dental problems? That girl is out a lot. I mean, if I was a teacher looking at attendance, I'm like, we're graduating this girl? She's barely a class. DT, she's out significantly a lot. And I think, listen, I look at Tiffany and I'm like, she's not that much, Charlotte's not that much better than her. Tiffany in 3 years has learned more than some of these girls in the last 10, 15 years. So if you got people who like prodigies like Roxanne Perez who could go at 22, Tiffany at 25, who could work her ass off and get a crowd reaction that she gets like that, Charlotte better step up her game as leadership. To resting on the laurels of I'm Charlotte Flair. She's got to stick around for a significant period of time, DT. I know I'm not seeing things. She's out a lot, isn't she, DT?
She is. She is. I mean, look, the last injury was a freak incident, but she is out. Recently in the last, I would say 7 years, she's out a significant amount of time.
Yeah.
The thing is that Andrade is now on SmackDown. And a lot of people have realized that WWE seems to keep partners on the same brand. I think the exception to the rule is Ludwig Kaiser and Tiffany Stratton. They're on different brands. I almost feel Charlotte Flair would probably help Raw a little bit more than SmackDown. But, the WrestleMania money match, I know everybody says Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, but it's also Charlotte Flair and Jade Cargill. I don't think Charlotte Flair and Jade Cargill should happen in the next, 6 to 8 months whenever Charlotte returns, because I still think that they're on different ends of the spectrum. But Charlotte Flair, I mean, I don't know. I personally would rather see her on Raw and maybe go at it with Rhea Ripley or go at it with Liv Morgan, even though that might be a little bit more one-sided. I would rather see Charlotte Flair on Raw right now.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. She should be on Raw. I agree.
Yeah. Mr. Webb wanted to let us know that in California, the minimum wage is $20 an hour.
Really?
No wonder why Big Mac's at $15. That's crazy, man.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, that is a lot.
I mean, you work a 40-hour work week. That's $800 before taxes. That's a lot of coin.
It is a lot of coin, but they're going to find ways to make other people pay for it.
Yeah. I mean, my first job I ever had was in a florist. I can't imagine working in a florist and getting paid $20 an hour. That's the
last job I haven't had a job that get paid by an hour in a long time. I think the last time, going back when I worked at a men's clothing store, I worked at a pizzeria back in 87, 88, before I got a city job and worked on on the books of the company. I think I was making in 87, 88, probably $4.50 an hour, $3.75, something like that.
unbelievable.
That was the last time. I mean, think about it now. Imagine $3.75. Jesus. And I thought that was good money back in 87.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
VJ wanted to add, he started listening to us at the start of COVID, got him through some tough times, and happy birthday from Canada, Kev. Did Lola Vice send you a birthday wish?
VJ, no, she has not yet, but I put her over so much. Even before I even saw her wrestle, I was declaring her the next world champion. I probably shouldn't have watched her wrestle before that. But, I've been a big proponent and a big supporter of Lola Vice. That's big, and it's funny because someone's like, how come you came down so hard on the twerking thing? I said, because there's a big difference of, Sexy Red, and all due respect, listen, there's nothing I just find it kind of grimy, and I love black women. Look, Jade Cargill's a beautiful woman. Bianca Belair, I got a huge crush on. Sexy Red, I don't get it. I don't get the appeal. And then people were saying, oh, I should have a twerk off. And I saw Brooks Jensen, and I'm sure it was a work, saying, I'm trying to get TV time, and they talk about a twerk contest.
Yes.
There might have been a little reality to it, but I said, I agree with Jensen. That's ridiculous. I hope they don't do that, because I thought, and not for nothing, would you ever see Becky Lynch or Bailey in a twerk contest?
Mm-hmm.
If they do that on NXT, I got news for you. I love Lola Vice. I joke about her assets all the time, but I don't want to see her do that. I hope they don't do that. I think it would be very degrading to Lola Vice. I love Lola Vice. There's a lot of sexuality to her character, but I do not want to see a twerk off with Sexy Red. I think that is not a good look for WWE. DT, you don't think they'll allow that on NXT TV, do you?
No, I don't.
Kind of thing.
I mean, look, I'm more disturbed watching Kofi Kingston twerk. You know what I mean? It's like, but for me, I look at it like this. Twerking is not the end of the world, but I would prefer to not even tune in. Like, I have no interest in seeing it. I mean, look, when you have access to, Pornhub and, any X-rated website you want to go to, seeing somebody twerk like her, it's like, you know what? I'm not interested in seeing it. Just like in AEW, they're teasing two girls kissing, drinking champagne. I'm like, it doesn't like, it's not something I'm interested in seeing in wrestling anymore. If I want to see two girls kiss, couple of clicks of the button, make sure my wife is, in a different floor of the house, and everything is fine. It's just, I'm not interested in seeing a twerking thing. I get it. It's creating some buzz. And the Brooks Jensen thing, look, they're good. They're turning it into storyline. I think a lot of people agree with the quote unquote Brooks Jensen take of it, but just not interested in seeing that in NXT. I don't think it helps anything. And I don't know what the point is other than just, like creating a little bit of, how much buzz is that really going to get?
Well, some guy was arguing with me in a respectful way. Like, believe it or not, on X, I was having a debate in a nice way with somebody. And he's like, but Kev, when you really think about it, it's very empowering for women. I'm like, dude, I don't know how old you are, but a girl saying, look at my ass is not empowering. It's not empowering. It's degrading. It's like a show pony. Look at my body, judge my ass, and now I'm going to clap my ass cheeks for you. How is that empowering? I think you need to look up the word empowering. That's not what that means. That's not a good thing for women. Again, ask Becky Lynch if she'll twerk for you. And when she punches you in the face, then you'll come back. And not because she's married, because Becky Lynch would never do that. She'd probably rather quit the business. DT, would you agree with me? A woman like Becky Lynch would probably quit wrestling before that she would do that? She would probably quit.
She would
literally
walk out.
quit.
I don't know if she would quit, but she would definitely in protest walk out and be like, "Are you fucking nuts?"
Exactly. Yeah. What are you like? I thought women have come a long way. We're headlining Raw. You want me to clap my ass cheeks together so a bunch of men? So when the guy told me that was empowering, I said, "Dude, I'm not trying to make fun of you, but look up the word empowering. That's not what that means."
Yeah.
I go, "You don't know what you're talking about. Getting men to drool out of their mouths and clap like seals is not empowering. That's not the word."
See, I don't have a problem with a woman that does that. Like I don't have a problem with a woman that poses in a bikini. If you have a body and you want to show it off, by all means. But as far as
DT,
wrestling goes,
DT, that's a sexual gesture.
Yes, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
In someone's face.
Yeah,
that's a look at this, and that's an invasive sexual gesture. To me, there's nothing. It's grimy. I mean, listen, I love women more than anybody. I'm a woman lover, not a woman hater. That's why I am saying, but it's grimy. It really is, and it's like I don't know anybody. If you say, Kev, you're the women you respect the most, not one of them twerks. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I couldn't name it. I have some really attractive friends in the music industry, and no, never seen one of them go, "Hey, Kev, look at this." That's if matter of fact, I would probably be blown away. I would think, "What the fuck is she on that she just did that?" I would check her for fucking drug use. So again, and I think also NXT, you're trying to get a younger audience and stuff. Listen, I understand she's a rapper. She's got 2 million followers. I get it's all about social media presence and stuff. But even when she was doing that and she was talking to Trick Williams and his partner the other day, and she turns around, she sticks her ass in the camera. I'm like, is WWE really cool with this? Or is there some discussion back there? Like, tell her to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Have her on. Why does she have to do that? And if she's a rapper, let her rap. But she was kind of over the top doing it. And I'm just like, I guarantee you there's some women in that locker room who are like, really? We're doing this now?
Yeah.
Because Lola Vice does the hip shake thing. Kind of Lola Vice is doing like a Shakira kind of thing.
Yeah.
Lola Vice is not like, look at my crotch. It's like, again, I'm not being prudish, but I'm not understanding where they're going with this. And if that and Booker T was talking about they should have a contest, and I'm like, isn't Booker T the one who's like wants people to rest on their laurels of ability and stuff?
Yeah.
I don't know. WWE is very confusing to me sometimes. You get very mixed messages from WWE, don't you?
Unless Lola Vice lays her out. What if Lola Vice sets her up and Lola Vice doesn't actually twerk and she just beats the fuck out of her, knocks her out?
Okay, yeah, then I'm cool with that. But again, and because even during the day, I remember seeing the Sable with the painted on hands thing, and it was, I mean, I was in the crowd for a lot of that stuff, and the guys were whooping it up and going crazy, and it was like me and my brother would be like, I don't know, and we all knew that was Mark Merrill's wife at the time. You're like, it's kind of like, I don't know, man, if I want my wife doing that and stuff. But that was WWE. That was the Attitude Era. But again, I had to look her up because guys, I'll be honest with you. This is how out of touch I was with Sexy Red. I mistook her for Red Velvet, the hot girl in AEW. I thought they were the same person
Hmm.
until I realized, oh, that's another Red. I didn't even know who Sexy Red was. I didn't even know she was a music artist.
Yeah,
Had
me
no
neither.
idea.
Me neither.
Didn't know
And
who she was. Had
yeah.
to look her up.
I'm hoping that WWE ends up having Lola Vice lay her out, and I think that could very well happen if they do something with them.
Yeah, if that's the case, if it's a means to an angle and they don't actually perform it, like almost like well, they actually went through with the live sex show, but they didn't show anything years ago with
Right.
Edge and Lita. Edge was better off staying here and doing live sex shows than breaking his fucking tibia or
Oh,
fibia or whatever
God.
he did in AEW. But yeah, no, again, I'm all for the women using their assets in a positive way. But a twerk thing I always found grimy. I never found it hot. I never, even if I was 15, I would have found like, I don't know about that. Never seen someone's mom do that in front of a bunch of young kids. Like,
Yeah.
you would look at each other and go, it's the only thing I think about DT is avoid that woman at all costs. When I see a
Yeah.
woman do that publicly,
Especially
avoid that woman at all costs.
Especially you don't just like get up and just one day say I'm gonna twerk. You know that they practice in the fucking mirror like for hours and hours at a time. Make sure that they got it down pat. It's like
it's and especially if you're attractive, you don't really even need to do stuff like that,
Yep.
But that's what I say. I say if Becky Lynch ain't doing it, they ain't gonna. It's not gonna be a thing in WWE, and so damn well some women's organization is gonna be going. No, I thought WWE. I thought you were make the men do that then if that's the case. I'm like, yeah, let's not see that.
Yeah, no,
I don't
thank
want to
you.
see that. No, thank you.
Since we brought up Brooks Jensen, I want to give a shout out to Police Squad who sent this in earlier. It's for those that don't know, Brooks Jensen has been on Twitter, not only complaining about this, but actually put up an email for him to take bookings, indie bookings, and a lot of people were perceiving that he was released by WWE. And I saw, no, he wasn't. He's still employed with WWE, but his social media, everything that he's doing is playing off that he is gone from WWE and he's complaining. In fact, I saw people that will, that tweet everybody, like wishing him well and how could WWE let you go? And it's a storyline. So Police Squad sent this in. Yeah, he wants our thoughts that WWE and Brooks Jensen, that they're using Twitter as a platform to make people believe that he is gone from the company. I know wrestlers have used Twitter to further intensify feuds over the years. I mean, it is what it is, but, to the point where somebody is perceived to be gone from a company, you think Twitter should allow that? That's like a form of, it's entertainment. You know what I mean? Like, is Twitter really designed to be pushing that kind of storyline? Because then you don't believe anymore. Like somebody gets let go, and then you start thinking like, is this person really gone or are they not gone? I don't think Twitter's the right place to be doing that.
No, I mean, listen, they're going to explore whatever options they can do, whatever way they can get publicity. And, a tweet carries still some weight. I don't think Twitter or X is what it used to be. And it really has nothing to do with Elon Musk owning it. And I think it just, again, we talked about it before at the beginning of the show, where things run their course. And then I'm surprised another new social media platform hasn't come around yet. I mean, because both Facebook and X and even Instagram are getting a little long on the tooth. I think they'll be around for as long as people want them around. But I think it's just another way. I'm sure Brooks Jensen talked to Shawn Michaels like, how do what should I do here? I'm kind of stuck in a rut.
Yeah,
I'm neither here nor there. I know they're big on him, DT, because they were trying to make him another Bradshaw, Blackjack Mulligan type of guy.
Yeah.
Kind of a tough. We always use Bruiser Brody, which is the kiss of death for any wrestler. Everyone who's tried to be the new Bruiser Brody has never worked out. From Mike Knox to what's his name? DT,
Mike Camarato.
None of these guys have worked out. So, but Brooks Jensen has a good look. If you guys remember him, DT, what was that Gabe Sapolsky company that they were taking wrestlers from? Gabe had ran it. It was that minor league.
Evolve,
where Matt Riddle came from, right?
Yep.
If you look at Brooks Jensen from 8 years ago and Evolve, his body, his look, he was heavy, he was stringy hair. Brooks Jensen really got himself into great shape. He looks fantastic. You think Gunther did an about face with his body, and Damian Priest lost 100 pounds. He's another one. Brooks Jensen. Go look at Brooks Jensen picture from 7 or 8 years ago. You're like, you won't believe it's the same dude. And so I think he's worth keeping. And he's 6'6". He's worth keeping around. And I think he's just probably talking to Michael, saying, "I'm going to go online. I'm going to pretend I'm fed up with this company." But DT, we've seen this act before.
Yes.
You know what I mean? We've seen this. But all these things are, DT, are new forms of Brian Pillman, aren't they? Like
Yeah.
I'm a ticking time bomb. I'm going against the grain. I'm going against the company. I'm going to call Shawn Michaels out as the booker man. Like, it's with Brian, no one did this better than Brian in an age where we knew kayfabe kind of still existed, but Brian was pushing the boundaries. Even Eric Bischoff said Brian was so crazy he didn't even know what to believe.
Yeah.
So, but now it's all worked out in advance, and no one's really going against the grain. But I think Brooks Jensen is an investment, and they're just trying to see what they can. They don't want another. What was the guy who didn't work out? DT Blake Beverly's son, who didn't work out.
Oh, Von Wagner.
Von Wagner didn't work out. Another big guy who they put all this money into in time and TV time. I think they're determined to maybe make Brooks Jensen work, unlike Von Wagner, who they had to give up on, unfortunately. So I think they're just trying anything, DT. And social media buzz is still a thing, and some tweets still have a great effect. Usually it's negative tweets that have a great effect, but I don't know what else can they do with them. I'm just impressed that Frank Drebin sent me $5.
Yeah,
Police Squad.
Yeah, Police Squad is a regular on the YouTube. So one of my favorite movies of all time. One of my favorite movies of all time.
I watch all three so many times. It's got to be 50 times I've seen each movie now.
Yeah. I wanted to I forgot who I was going to shout out earlier. We were talking about Brooks Jensen also. I can't remember right now.
No, Josh Briggs. Right. We mixed up the two. Yeah, I know Josh Briggs, dude. I got the name wrong. Josh Briggs I was talking about.
Yeah, Josh Briggs. I can't remember who I was going to shout out earlier about Brooks Jensen, but it was something with Twitter, but we'll get into that a little bit later. We could definitely go back to it. T. Smitty, shout out to you, my friend. Happy birthday, Kev. Since their numbers are down, do we think AEW should just focus more on building homegrown talent than relying on free agency? WWE signs free agents, but homegrown talent is their core. I don't know. I mean, let me put it this way. Everybody that have signed that are free agents, they are big money contracts. So if you're not going to just put them on the sideline in favor of younger talent, plus, Guevara has been there for 5 years. Darby Allin's been there for 4 years. Hobbs is on the injury list. Wardlow is just a lost cause. It's like homegrown talent. There is no NXT. The people who have been in that company for a long time have already been pushed. So, it's,
yeah.
I just think, there's no easy answer with AEW, but for me, I've said this many times. One of the things that turn me off about AEW is that the titles mean shit. Everybody's got to have a title. The matches are not intriguing. Because Tony Khan is so obsessed that records matter, that win-loss matters because he wants it to be portrayed more as a sport. You basically jack up stats just to jack up stats. The storylines are not strong. And I think one of the biggest problems also is, you see wrestlers, you could tell who's someone that they are putting the Jets behind because the momentum is there, that it's organic. They should have capitalized on Swerve 6 months ago. MJF should have been on TV even if he was injured. There's a lot of damage that's been done, and trying to portray a little bit of reality with the EVPs. It's we're in 2024. It's a hard sell that their contracts are so ironclad so they could cause all this chaos and Tony Khan can't do anything about it. There's just a lot of goofiness there, and I don't want to get into this whole rant, but I said something on Patreon Tuesday. Somebody emailed me earlier and said, please, could you bring this up on the show tonight? I don't want to get into a whole thing, but AEW, the best way I could describe AEW right now is Tony Khan owns a house, and inside the house, he's got 30 dogs. And those 30 dogs could pretty much pee where they want, shit what they want, tear up all the papers in the house, just totally run roughshod in that house. And as long as Tony gives them food and water, they'll survive. And that's, to me, what AEW is. You look at Edge, Adam Copeland, take that dive off the cage. It sucks that he got injured, but, it just feels like these wrestlers, like they want to do what they want to do. Nobody tells them no. You see, some of these moves that have no business of being done. It feels like people are just doing whatever they want. And Tony Khan, like I said, AEW is filled with a bunch of dogs that nobody trains them. Nobody tells them, no, you can't do this. No, you shouldn't do this. No, this is not a good idea. They basically like, yeah, man, pee wherever you want, shit whatever you want. Just, you do what you do and enjoy yourself. And it's like one big, summer camp. And that's why you keep seeing the shit that we see. All the matches, I listened to Jim Cornette reviewing Double or Nothing, and he said almost all the matches felt the same. And I know he's hard on AEW, but he's right. A lot of the matches felt the same. It just feels like when you see on camera, it doesn't feel like an agent, thought that this was a good idea. It's the rest like, oh, we got to do this spot. Oh, we got to do this. Oh, we got to do that. Oh, I want to do this. And that's the problem with AEW. It just comes across as TV as just, people that are signed there. How do you make them happy? You let them do whatever they want. Like Bryan Danielson. You're like, Dad, I want to have ice cream at 1:00 in the morning. No problem. Dad, I want pizza for breakfast. No problem. That's what it comes across to me. It's just not a professionally run company, and it shows on the TV. I just, so pushing the young talent, I don't think does anything, because it's just the foundation of the company. There's so many problems,
Yeah, and thank you, T. Smitty 3000 for the question and the donation.
Yeah, thank you very much, my friend. All right, we got a few more, and I guess we'll start bringing this home because we've gone 2 hours already. And tomorrow night we got another show on DTKCDiscord.com. We'll be live after Raw, giving you our reaction to Raw. We'll get into some wrestling news, and we'll continue our conversation about Becky Lynch last week, because people are pushing fucking hard that Becky Lynch could join AEW, which is, to me, the most
not gonna happen.
Asinine clickbait thing that I've read in recent.
You'll see her in the twerk off with Lola Vice before she goes to AEW.
Yeah.
Not gonna happen.
Shout out to Just Too Far. Shout out to us. Happy birthday, Kev. DT Yakika. Oh man, I remember
that. Thank you, Just Too Far.
Yakika. I almost used that as the intro for tonight. Sometimes we have to go old school with the retro intros because, copyright issues online, and we definitely don't want to get into copyright problems.
No, we do not.
Eldad. Eldad. Let's see. Happy birthday. See, people abbreviate.
Thank you, Eldad.
And it takes me a minute to think about it. Happy birthday, Kev. Just wanted your guys' take on the 6-week-old baby who was attacked by the family husky and passed away. Why have so much trust in our pets?
I heard a little bit about that story. I don't know a lot about it. I mean, husky, that's not the first time a husky dog or an Alaskan Malamute has attacked a kid or a baby. I think that sometimes, as much as the pets become protective sometimes with a newborn baby around, we always find, I see a lot of videos on YouTube of the new dog lying next to the baby. It's a pit bull and it's caring for the baby. And I always get that nervous kind of energy too about even cats. Cats could scratch a baby. They have the cat lying next to the baby and it's got its head on the baby's head. And I'm like, if the baby even makes a gesture or puts its hand up quickly, the cat could bite it or the cat could swat it, would cut his hands. I personally would not put no matter how close I am with my dog or cat, next to a newborn. Matter of fact, I wouldn't let a dog or a cat stay with a child under the age of 6 by themselves, let alone newborn. I got first grade is probably that's as low as I go, because at any time a kid could do something to irritate a dog or a cat. Even if your golden retriever is the most loving, the kid could pull its ear. The kid could, right, DT, like a terrible
Yeah.
two. They could throw something at the dog. They could hit him on the nose with dogs that have very sensitive noses, and the dog could bite. And then then it's a then of course you got to
Hey.
choose the kid over the dog. You put the poor dog down. The dog was just being a fucking dog.
Hey.
So I'm not big on that kind of stuff.
The little kid, I'm not trying to be funny, but the little kid could have saw the dog's dick and say, "Oh, look, squeeze toy," and squeezed his nuts. I mean, it's just, I agree wholeheartedly with Kev. Putting a newborn around a dog like that, I don't care how loving the dog is. The dog don't speak English. You don't know what's going on in the dog's head. Look, we have Bella in my house now. I know a lot of you seen pictures of her. She's about 6 months old. The first 2 months we had her, I had to watch the bird because my parents were in Florida, our African gray. And I put up barricades and I made sure that, unless I was in the same room, that bird is staying in a cage and gated up. And, they ended up getting along just fine. But I was not going to even take the remote chance that the bird plays around with the dog and the dog grabs the bird and kills him, or vice versa. I think it's just stupid. I don't care how cute a dog is or how adorable or how trustworthy you feel. Putting a 6-week-old baby around a dog, it's, let me put it like this. Even if the dog was a small little mutt or a Yorkie or something like that, what happens if the dog is playing and you knock the 6-week baby over and the baby hits the side of a table or hits the side of a couch? I just think it's just asinine for the parents to do. So putting the dog down, I think, is absolutely awful.
I mean, just and also a newborn and a baby kicks and makes motions with their hands, and also the crying could freak the dog out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When a baby screams and bellows like that, the dog's like, "What's going on? What's going on here?" So I mean, yeah, as good as you train your dogs and stuff, and I love animals. So DT loves animals. We're big proponents for animals. We're far from animal haters. We love animals, but I just think you have to be smarter than that. You assume, I'm sorry, you assume the worst. And I think, again, until a kid is raised around the dog, 3, 4, 5 years old, dog is acclimated to the kid, dog's acclimated to the kid, then the kid's in first grade, let him walk the dog stuff. There has to be, it takes years, not months. For someone to, but even then, Alaskan Malamutes and Huskies are very temperamental dogs. So that does it shock me that the Husky attacked baby? No, I've heard about stuff like that happening before. And of course, what's the end result? The dog gets put down. This all could have been avoided.
Yeah.
Could have been avoided.
And now the baby's gone and the dog is gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's terrible.
Yeah. Vincent Ricci, we were talking about minimum wage earlier. He remembers his first job at $4.50 an hour. Vincent, I don't know how old you are, but my first job I remember was a florist, and minimum wage at the time was $3.35 an hour. So I do remember. That's what I told you. Yeah, and I remember. I don't remember the check, but I remember when I got my first check, I was ecstatic about it, and it was probably like $100. But I was still. I mean. It's crazy to think this day and age minimum wage is $15, $20 an hour. That's crazy. So
it is, man. It is crazy.
Yeah. Shout out to Kevin Milwaukee. He remembers that amazing heel push Sid Justice had in 1992. Sid was a heel, yet his argument for his anger was justified. His facials, he was acting like a face, and his theme song was awesome. Kev, all I remember at the beginning of it was that WrestleMania press conference. And Sid thought that he was going to have the match. And then I think Jack Tunney chose, Hogan or somebody else. And Sid just had that look of anger on his face. I couldn't stop laughing that day, but Sid was badass.
Yeah, Sid was good. It just, he kind of, in a way, I look back now, and even when you look at him, the curly kind of Shirley Temple haircut, probably in hindsight, Sid maybe could have slicked back his hair. It would have been so much more menacing. DT, remember the villain in the movie with Stallone, Cobra?
Oh yeah,
remember that movie, sure. Cobra, and that guy who had that face, that face, that Cro-Magnum-ish.
Yeah.
Imagine if Sid had his hair, Sid slicked his hair back like real tight. That would have been like a really scary look. But yeah, the thing that threw me about Sid sometimes was the real curly,
the
tight,
Jerry
curly
curls.
Jerry curl. Yeah, it was like that's the one thing that kind of, it was like he's missing something, and it was always that haircut. It would always threw me with that. If he had more of a menacing hairstyle, it would have looked a lot better.
Yeah, I always wanted to see him play softball because he was so obsessed with playing softball
Yeah,
back
you
in the
always
day.
heard that. You've heard that since then. When he debuted as Lord Humongous in Continental in I guess '87, when he was wearing the hockey mask. You had heard stuff like that about him. Oh, this guy's a big softball aficionado. I'm like, softball?
Yeah.
Like, it's clearly you don't make money in softball, so it was a leisure. It was a leisure activity. And I'm like,
Yeah.
he leaves his profession to go play softball with his friends.
He
That's kind
missed
of
house
weird.
shows playing softball.
He did. No, that's what I'm saying. And he doesn't get. It's not a paid job. That's why I always thought it was kind of strange.
Yeah. It was Hogan back then. Thank you, SM Punk. I remember Hogan, yes, yes. And Sid just had that look on his face. Like he had that same look like I did when I was on Ozempic and I couldn't go to the bathroom. If anybody looks at that look on his face, that was the look of me in the bathroom. So let's see. Shout out to Just Too Far also, as I said earlier. Daryl wishes you a happy birthday. He's been a fan since the TV Tracks days.
Oh, nice. So that's going back 15 years.
Yeah. I miss
Very
TV Tracks.
Nice. Longer than that. Yeah, TV Tracks. What
what
was the other guy who put our platform up? TV Tracks, and there was the other one.
Epic Sports.
Epic Sports. Yeah, there you go. Shout out to those guys too.
Yeah, if you guys are still around, drop us an email, or stop by like on the Discord or something. We definitely would love to hear from you, see how you're doing. I mean, yeah, I'm not trying to put TV Tracks above him, but I had some private messages with TV Tracks back in the day, and he really, I mean, I'm not taking away from Epic Sports also, but TV Tracks worked hard because he was making money, obviously. And when they had that adpocalypse with wrestling shows on YouTube, that was the end of his channel. But the amount of podcast hours that he would spend in a week listening to all the shows and then editing it and putting up clips. I mean, to this day, we still have people that tell us that, they found us through TV Tracks. So we will always be very much appreciated to both those guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we are at 2 hours and 10 minutes. So we're going to start wrapping this up, guys.
Anybody wants to get any last minute questions?
Yeah, if anybody wants any last minute questions, we'll take a few more minutes. And then, as we said, tomorrow night, 11:15 p.m., right after Raw, we'll be on DTKC Discord. And we will definitely be talking about Raw, talking about some wrestling news, take some calls. We were able to figure out and fix all the problems with the calls. Last week, we took some great calls.
Yeah, last week was fun, but we definitely got it ironed out. So
yeah, Ed Vary says the first video he saw of us on Epic Sports was when we were saying how Karen Jarrett was an attention whore in TNA.
Oh God, jeez, I remember that one. V question said, "How am I celebrating my birthday?"
Yeah,
I haven't decided yet. I mean, it's tomorrow, Monday, which is good and bad. It's the beginning of the week, so a lot of people are. Monday's a busy day for people. It's usually a busy booking day for me too. My boss had already told me, you don't got to do anything tomorrow. Fucking, don't take any call. Do it Tuesday. You don't have to do anything. I was like, I'll probably end up working anyway, like for a portion of the day, because if there's some bookings that I have to take or some reservations for things for the venue, I'm gonna do it anyway, even if my boss tells me not to. But I'm not sure. I'll probably watch some movies, just relax. And honestly, guys, some of you guys are asking how Amy's doing. Amy's really not doing very well. As a matter of fact, I've actually put on a pretty good game voice here. I can't say game face because we're an audio show. The whole time, Amy has been pretty brutally sick today. So I've had to check on her. It's just getting to that point. I mean, I have taken this as far, again, and I've made this clear so everybody understands what I'm saying. As long as she's not in pain, she's uncomfortable and she's not well, but she's not in dire pain. She's in dire pain. I got to do what I got to do, but it's getting to that point. I mean, I've for the last couple of months from different medicines, I've spent every dime I had. No joke. We were talking about money earlier. Everything I put into her to keeping her prolonged, but not in a bad way. Like I said, the vet has given me the nod to keep trying some new experimental things with her to keep her around. She's 14. She's not like, in dire straits to that point yet, but it's getting there. I could just tell, and I
Yeah.
think it's wearing on her. Vomiting all the time, and just being lethargic and stuff. But she's very affectionate. She was just running around before, but then she just had a bad spell of throwing up before. And it's just like, it's frustrating. And yeah, I've been putting it off. I got to make some hard decisions this summer, see where we're at. But you guys have no idea the amount of money I've spent. I know DT on your dog back in the day. You spent so much money on Peanut, to take care of, for your dog had diabetes, right?
Yeah, he had diabetes for about 5.5 years.
Yeah, Amy's got so many afflictions and
Yeah.
conditions, and it's just, again, I'm not gonna, if it's in her best interest to you know, get to that point of an ending with dignity, I'll do it. But we're not at that point yet. But we're certainly getting there. And honestly, it's taken the life out of me.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
that's another thing,
yeah.
DT.
I
You
can
know
only
that too. Like
imagine.
I'm up all night like a newborn baby, like
Yeah.
checking on her. Is she okay? Blah blah blah. I'm getting no sleep. It's affecting me. And that's where you got to make that hard line decision, and it's just getting to the point. And I did the same thing. Wow, it's my birthday next week. I'll put it off, and then after Monday comes Tuesday. My birthday's tomorrow. Then the next day, what do I do now?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't want anybody to feel bad or anything. Listen, everybody goes through this stuff. 14 years. I had her for a long time, and if it's getting to that point that 14 is the last birthday she makes, then that's what it is. I mean, that's you do everything you can for your pets, but forget about fiscally. It's draining the life out of me, Anthony.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it really
Well,
is. I mean, people are telling me I look like I haven't slept in 3 days.
well, listen, it took me years to even be able to talk about it. I'm still haunted once in a while in my dreams. The worst feeling that I have now
Yeah,
is, you sometimes I dream about my dog and I wake up and the dream feels so real that I think he's still here. And then
yeah,
I
it is.
have to remind myself that if he didn't go through that, he would have been 25. You know what I mean?
God,
So he wouldn't have
geez.
he wouldn't have been around anyway. But the one thing, like my wife, she lost 2 dogs this year.
Yeah, no, I
Um,
know you went through that too. Yeah, I
yeah,
know.
and one of them passed away in our house, and I saw it, and it's the worst feeling around. But what I
Oh,
keep
yeah.
telling her, I say the same thing to you. The one thing you got to always take pride in is you gave that cat 14 fucking awesome years. You know what I mean? And that cat,
Tried. Yeah,
she's fighting, because she still wants to stick around. So, whatever happens, you're doing what you're doing because you love this cat. And even though they can't speak it in our language, she acknowledges that and she knows it. And, everything you're doing because of love and you care. And we're all going to get to that one day,
absolutely. Yeah,
but take pride that at least you could look back at those 14 years and be like, man, I fucked up here, or man, I fucked up there. You don't have to do that. You know that you gave that
yeah.
cat 14 awesome years. Probably took better care of that cat than sometimes we do with human beings.
No, I take
So
better care of that cat than I take care of myself. So
yeah,
it's
that's
like
what I'm
I mean
saying. So
that that's what it is. But yeah, I mean, because I even had some friends on me. It's like, oh, Kev, don't prolong it if you have to. I'm like, listen, if she's even remotely suffering, if it takes that turn, I'm the first guy to go take her over to the vet or
yeah,
take her
you
to
don't want to think
emergency.
about that right now.
I don't want to think about that right now,
No.
but no, I'm not that selfish and delusional that I would ever. First of all, I would never let it get to that point. If it gets to that point, I'm the first guy outside in the fucking car, and I'm gonna go do what I got to do, even if it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm gonna do it. So yeah, I mean, just I appreciate everybody, and it's something we all go through. Yeah, I mean, even if you're not animal, it's the same thing. It's like any other tough decisions. You can't something's got to give. It's not going to get better. So you got
Yeah.
to just prepare. And honestly, the same thing, DT. But can I ask you, DT, with your
Yeah.
wife's dogs, was it an age thing or a condition thing?
Well, one was 13 and the other one was 12.
Okay. All right. So around the same age as Amy, not too
Yeah.
far.
I mean, the 12-year-old, her female dog, she was dealing with seizures and she had
Okay.
some respiratory issues. So, This was coming. We for a year, like if I showed you and showed everybody like any pictures or videos that I recorded of her for the last year or two, especially the last year, always panting, always with the tongue out. Like you realize looking back that she had a lot of respiratory issues. The other one, they didn't do an autopsy, but they're pretty convinced that her other dog had a brain tumor. And, within a matter of a year, he almost became blinded. He went from perfect sight to almost blinded. And they think that the tumor was pushing on somewhere in his brain that was causing blindness. So that came out of nowhere. But, January 1st, both of them were in decent health. And by January 7th, one was gone. And within 2 months, the other one was gone. And she's got a third Yorkie now that lives with her parents that is 14. And, she even says to me that, he's not what he used to and he likes to sleep all day. And, you got to interpret it to human years. This is like in their 80s and 90s. This is, the time. But though I will say this, I had a friend of mine who had a cat that lived to be almost 18 years old. And when I say this guy fed this cat like the most garbage food around, took care of the cat. But if that cat wanted to eat, like something like cheese or lasagna, he fed it. And, we look like Jake the Snake Roberts. We look at wrestlers and we're like, wow, I can't believe that this person is still around, but this person is gone.
Well, so that reminds me of Burgess Meredith, Rocky's Mickey, who died almost nearly 100. And he wasn't joking when he said he had a bacon sandwich every day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it depends on your genetic makeup. But I'll do you one better. My brother Mike's cat Doyle is named, if anybody knows the band The Misfits, named after the Misfits member Doyle, is 21. My brother Mike's cat.
Wow.
21. My brother Mike's got. Shout out to my brother Mike and Doyle. So yeah, like compared to Doyle, Amy's a kid, but 7 years younger. But Doyle's got is a little old man. I mean, he's literally couch bound, but he's not in pain. He's just elderly, and he's doing better than Amy's doing. So yeah, my brother's got a 21-year-old cat. I remember when my brother got that cat in 2003. I met him when he got that as a kitten in 2003. Wow. Here we are, 2024, 21 years later. It's insane.
Yeah.
But thank you everybody for thank you Anthony. Thank you everybody for tonight. And I want to leave off on a good note. So I want to say thank you to everybody who asked the question, and we're going to get ready to get out of here. I know VJ was asking DT any chance we both consider a live in-person podcast taping down the road, I guess.
Yeah, never say never.
You never say never. I'd definitely be interested in doing something like that. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a wrestling convention down the line, technology wise, I mean, it definitely is doable now. 10 years ago, it would be very, very, very difficult to do. But, now it's definitely possible. I mean, down the line, we have a wrestling convention, and if the stars align and, we have the time to do it and the means and everybody wants to come down. Yeah, it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, anything's possible. Definitely. Open to anything down the road.
Yeah. Kev, have a good one, my friend. And
I'll be on tomorrow night, part 2 of the birthday. Tomorrow night we'll have the cake.
Yes, and we put the crown back on.
We'll put the crown back on tomorrow night, though.
Have a good one, Kev. Happy birthday. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks, Ann. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night, and I'll talk to you tomorrow, Ann. Peace.
You well. Take care. All right, everybody. I want to thank you very much for joining us tonight. We could go on for a lot longer. I don't know if anybody heard it at the beginning of the show, but I heard Kev's cat right at the beginning of the show. And if you play it back, you'll hear I actually muted it for a second because I had a feeling something was going on. And, that's just rough. That's just rough. I mean, I went through it. I know a lot of you have gone through it also. When you have a pet that, is getting to that point where you got to make that really painful decision. And, he is very, very close with his cat, Amy. And, it's a sucky thing to have to deal with, especially around your birthday. But, he is doing everything he possibly can to make, the final, hopefully months, if not a year, whatever it is, as peaceful as possible. It's just, it's a tough thing to go through. And, I can only imagine. And listen, I could guarantee you these shows are a little bit of an escape for him. from everyday bullshit. We always get from a lot of you out there that what we do is an escape for you as well. It's an escape for me, getting our minds off of a lot of everyday shit. But had a lot of fun tonight. You know, I definitely would love to do these a little bit more often. You know, I know a lot of you out there want me to bring back either a Sunday night show or a Saturday morning show. Saturday morning, I don't think really is going to be happening because we do one Friday night. I kind of like doing it Friday night now, especially since SmackDown just goes off the air. We could comment a little bit about that as well. And Friday, since it's sit down mode, you don't have to put a crazy amount of preparation into that show. A lot of the prep we do off of Mondays. So there's nice little balance there. But, you know, as far as doing more episodes on a Sunday, that is up to all of you out there. You know, if enough of you speak up and you want us to return, you know, I'll definitely talk to Kev. Maybe we'll do this as a monthly thing. Definitely a possibility. So I want to thank everybody who joined us live tonight. For everybody on the archive, thank you as well. And listen, I don't say it enough, but you're going to hear me start to say it this coming Monday. You're going to hear Kev say it going forward, but we really want to start the push of the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle show back in full force. We started again the end of January, if you remember. I think it was January 28th. So we've been doing it now for about 4 months. Hasn't been that long, even though it kind of feels like, you know, we never left, but we've only been back for about 4 months. I think now we are at a point where we could really start pushing the cause, tell everyone we want to get back to number one. I mean, Jim Cornette is going to be a really, really tough sell. I mean, yes, internationally, we seem to be a little bit more popular across the board, but we truly want to get back our number one spot. And the only way we could do that is by giving you good shows, you know, keeping the conversation real and honest, and your support. So definitely, if you know anyone else out there that would enjoy what we do, you know, post a link, let them know that we're back, download the shows. The biggest thing you could do for us is download the shows, because that is where we get, you know, featured in the stats. I mean, if people don't download the shows, then we're not visible. The more exposure we get, the more people will learn about the show, find out that we're back. You know, word of mouth isn't always enough, but we are definitely back. And I will definitely talk to Kev about doing more of these on a Sunday night. Again, maybe once a month, and we go from there. But much love, everybody. Happy birthday to Kev once again. Thank you all who joined us tonight. And if you're around Monday night after Raw, 11:15 p.m., go to dtkcdiscord.com, and we will be talking about Raw. We'll get into some wrestling news, and we'll probably take some calls as well. Phone lines are pretty much in full force now, and we took some great calls last Monday, and I think we'll probably open the phone lines a little bit earlier this week, and we'll build on that. So thank you, everybody. Much love. Thank you for everybody who supports the show, and thank you for believing in what we do. So you have a good one, my friends. We'll catch you all again soon.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.